Welcome to the Visual Cast, coming at you from California. I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we sit down with some of the best, most interesting, and most exciting visual artists from all over the world. We chat about life, art, visuals, software, hardware, systems, spirituality. It's basically a massive nerd out. But the guests also do a set where we dive into their computer and get an up-and-close look at how they make art, how they perform art, or really anything they want to share. We get weird for episode 12 with the beautiful and hysterical Mathew Childers, aka Digital Introspect. Mathew is a force of nature, a completely unique visual artist with a heart of gold and a mind that is absolutely full of what I like to call weird shit. He tours with massive music acts, plays some of the biggest festivals in the country, and makes award-winning music videos. We get pretty deep in this one. We talk about DI's wacky teenage years, his military service, his use of art as a healthy addiction, his insane hacking abilities, his love of touchdesigner, building his own Midi controllers, fatherhood, and the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Okay, well that last one is on me, but we still talk about it. For a Digital Introspect set, we get an insanely fun audiovisual set with music made by Mathew himself, and then jump into his unique resolume project. We then take a look at how he made his award-winning music video with a dip into After Effects, Photoshop, ComfyUI, and midjourney. Mathew went all out with me on this one, and the conversation and set was nothing less than mind-blowing. I'm getting great feedback from the podcast. It feels really good to hear the inspiration that people are feeling and the insights that people are gaining from getting to see people's workflows and their showcases. Please help us reach more people so we can inspire them as well. Share this with people that you think will enjoy it. Please go to Spotify and leave us a review and follow us on all the social medias. Now, without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Smart and interesting guy. So welcome to the show, Mathew Childers, aka Digital Introspect.
Hey, what's up?
Oops, I pressed the wrong button.
Good to be here.
Good.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's a
I'm
cool
so excited.
Intro.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know how true it is.
Just off the cuff. Just off the cuff.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Yeah, you probably had to think long and hard about that one.
Wait until my first question.
Oh, shit. Now I'm nervous.
Well, I'm really happy that you're here, and this is going to be a really fun conversation. I feel like we're going to get into a lot of interesting topics here. So we're just going to start off.
Okay.
So, Mathew, you have been in the visual art space for long over a decade. You've been consistently getting better and perfecting your craft as time goes on. You've worked with some of the biggest names within the music industry and projection mapped and done visuals at some of the biggest stages in the US. Your way of mastering hardware and interactive media is spectacular and inspiring to watch, and your style of visuals is wacky, trippy, introspective, and unique. And I love it. So,
thanks so much.
Where does this insatiable need to create come from, and what's it like living the VJ dream?
Whoa. Dang, is this a dream? I pinch myself. I can feel it. I don't know. I've always kind of been that way, just sort of driven to create different things. I can't really help myself. I've thought about quitting several times, and then I'll go back to my computer and be making artwork, and I'm like, what? I thought I was gonna quit. I don't think I could possibly quit, really, but I've just always kind of been this way. Always doodled, made music, been a nerd on the computer. You know?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Being a nerd on computer is my favorite thing to do and be.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I feel very connected to what you're saying. It's like it is insatiable. I use that word on purpose because I feel like there are a lot of people that, have ups and downs in their careers or have more work, less work, but it's like irrelevant, the need to and want to make cool shit in the computer is like inherent in us in some way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I see that a lot in you, and it's very inspiring. So you've always been this way. You've always been a nerd geek. You're from West Virginia. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah.
What was it like growing up there? Were you doing art from a young age? Is there any inspirations that you have from a young age? What was kind of like the mode in West Virginia?
I guess we were like kind of out in the country, but I didn't really know that at the time. I went to public school, I had lots of friends, pretty like normal upbringing for the 90s, I would say, played like basketball, football with my neighbors, stuff like that. But I always liked to draw. My mom's a pretty creative person, and my dad played drums in a band.
Oh, wow.
And he listens to a lot of like super cool music, exposed me to a lot of music. So, and then, I got into like drawing with comic books and stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think when I was in like 4th or 5th grade, and I remember I was trying to imitate what I was seeing in comic books. Never got to that level, but my mom was like getting freaked out because I was drawing like things with blood and people fighting and stuff like that. And I remember she was like, my dad's name is Rick. She's like, Rick, do you think it's okay that he's drawing this kind of stuff? And he's like, well, if he grows up and becomes, a comic book illustrator, then I don't see a problem with it. And she's like, Rick, don't encourage him.
I love that. That's awesome. So you grew up with a lot of art around you, kind of like the creative mentality. Was there, besides for, your mom being your mom, all moms kind of have that, don't encourage him kind of attitude. Was there a push to be creative? Was there a push to go into art? Or was it kind of just like, it just felt right inside of you?
Yeah, I don't think they ever pushed me to go into art. They definitely did not. I just really like drawing and writing stories too. Yeah, I remember like first day of 3rd grade, I had my new like Trapper Keeper binder, and I was like doodling before. Yeah.
See, I don't even know what a Trapper Keeper is just from South Park. Just from like that one episode, the trap. Like I know what it is now, but we didn't have those in Israel, but it's like from South Park, the Trapper Keeper 2000, that was like the biggest thing.
I don't know what tools they were using to make that art back then, but it was always like, it was just like floating spheres, different colors, and like a random pyramid. But it was 3D, like art printed on the binders. Yeah, but I remember I was doodling there before class started, and my 3rd grade teacher, who, she's actually a really sweet person, but at the time I like couldn't stand her because first day of class, she just like closed my binder. She's like, we're in 3rd grade now. We don't just sit around and draw anymore. And I felt like, oh shit, like that's all I used to do. Like, what am I gonna do in class now?
Count numbers.
Yeah, and I never was good at that.
That's awesome. So,
forgot what we were talking about.
You went to school for motion graphics, correct? And like design. Was that like was it an obvious thing for you? Like, so, drawing comic books and being infatuated by creativity is like, it's a really awesome upbringing. And like, a lot of people I feel grow up that way and then either get pushed by their family or pushed by society or whatever into something else. You retained it and you wanted to pursue it as a career. Was there some catalyst or some inspiration besides your family that pushed you in that direction?
Well, for a long time I've been thinking about like how how can I take these computer skills and like make some money with it? And if I can be creative while doing it, then like even better. I think first I was thinking like, oh, maybe I'll go into web design. This was like coming out of the Marines, basically. I'm thinking like, what am I going to do? So that was my plan. I went to community college and was studying like digital art and web design with the purpose of trying to be like a web designer. And then I was living in Santa Cruz and trying to make some money doing that. I wasn't really making, I think I had like a couple small business jobs doing that while I was there, but I primarily worked at this retail place. And then I didn't even know about like how to do motion graphics at all. I just was making like trippy stuff in Photoshop. And I had messed with like Archaeos and stuff, but I didn't know like what Cinema 4D was or After Effects or anything like that. And then I saw, it was someone I was dating at the time told me about this college in Oakland for motion graphics. I was like, okay, maybe that's the next natural trajectory for all this, because I really wanted to work with movement more anyway. So, and I had the GI Bill, so like, I had money to spend to like go to college somewhere. So it just seemed like probably the best fit for me. I was wrong about that. But.
Yeah, the useless talents of motion graphics.
Yeah, well, there's that. And then I never fit in at the school either, because it was definitely more, it was more like it's geared towards
corporate
commercial motion graphics. So we would have like group projects where we'd all have to decide on like a narrative for our motion graphics piece or whatever. And like I was always the guy like wanting to do something crazy, and everyone was like, no, Matt, like not gonna do that. And I just felt like everyone was so like bland and like no one wanted it drove me crazy. Like, so then I kind of like outcasted myself kind of from the group and just kept making crazy shit.
Wow.
It's a bad idea, I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, it turned out good. You never know what's going to come of these things.
It's true.
Okay, so you went to the military and the Marines, and then you came out west, or did you come out west subsequently?
Yeah, I was in West Virginia and like getting in hell of trouble, and no money for school, and kind of like teachers, parents, everybody coming down on me, and then and some interactions with police and firefighters too. But
with the firefighters, what did you do, bro?
I was
tell us, please.
I was super high on LSD, and
nice.
Yeah, like I took 9 hits after. I thought. Yeah, I thought I had this tolerance, and I think it'd been a minute since I'd done it, but then also some new shit came into town, and I was like, yeah, I ate 9, my buddy ate 7, and we both just were off our gourds, and I got this idea in my head, like, I need to drive to what was the name of that town? Spring Valley. It was like 45 minutes away. It's like, I need to get there to talk to this girl, to tell her this thing that like I can't explain to you now, but like it's like I figured out the meaning of everything, and I had to get there no matter what to tell her this. I couldn't even figure out how to use the phone. Like that's how high I was. Hallucinations, like you wouldn't believe. A lot of the stuff that inspires my artwork still to this day. But we stole my mom's car, and then we thought there was something wrong with it. I think he was driving. Yeah, he was driving because he was on 7.
Was there something wrong with the car, huh? we got in the car and something was wrong with the car.
Yeah, we thought there was something wrong with the car. There wasn't, but we pulled over, like, checked the tires. We're like, everything seems fine. And somehow we got the bright idea that, like, he was going to stay with the car and I was going to sprint. Oh, yeah, my parents paged me because they had woken up since I'd been gone. My brother woke him up and was like worried about me. So I got their page. So then I thought like, I'm just going to sprint down the road until I get to this gas station. so I can call my parents and tell them
It's all good.
that like I'm going to go see this girl. So I'm like running down the road, full sprint for like miles, seeing like the craziest shit. I'm seeing like, and I'm not kidding. People will think this is bullshit, but I was seeing like velociraptors crossing the road, like way up in the distance.
Of course.
And like every blade of grass was a snake, and like there was like puddles of blood and stuff. It was insane. So then I finally like get to this on my way to the gas station. I come across a volunteer fire department, and they're like, they got the lights on, there's people there. So I ran up to them and was like, this is an emergency, I need to use your phone. And they're like, yeah,
that's the most that's the most LSD thing of like, like with meth or some other drug, you would never go to the police or the fire. Like LSD, you're like, yeah, everybody's my friend. Like, these guys are gonna help me out. It's just like such a funny thought. Like you're on drugs and like to go to.
I don't know what I was thinking, but I remember that like seeing their expressions, kind of like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, the phone's right there. So they let me call my mom, and we started like arguing. This is a crazy story. It could go on forever, dude. It's such a story.
Did you get to the girl in the end?
No, my parents, they had to end up coming to the fire department. There's a police department right across the street. So they were like, we made a deal that like, if I went home with my parents, that in the morning they would take me to the thing. My parents made the deal with me. The firefighters
take you to what? To the military academy?
No, or like to the girl's house.
Oh, to the girl's house.
Yeah. So of course by then I was like coming down.
You're like, I don't want to talk to that girl at all. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. That's
so, yeah,
awesome.
My parents were trying to ship me to military school about this time. I had OD'd another time too, like almost died. And
sorry.
Yeah, it was my teenage years were like pretty rough. But ended up talking to a Marine Corps recruiter, and I was like, okay, like I'll peace out of here.
How old were you when you went to the military?
I was 17.
Wow.
Had to get my parents' permission. I turned 18 when I was in boot camp.
Can you? What's the age of drafting in this country? You can draft in your 17?
I think it's 20. Isn't it 21 when you have to register for the draft? But you can voluntarily sign up with parents' permission before 18. At least you could when I was in. I'm pretty sure you still can. I think even 16-year-olds in some cases.
But they'll deploy you somewhere, or it's more of like they'll just be in the military environment?
You would be doing all the training and stuff. Like I was, I was in boot camp at 17. It happened to be where my birthday was. I turned 18 before graduating boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in, Iraq on the soil when I was 18.
Wow.
Like only a few months after graduating.
It's wild that, like I was also in the military. Obviously in Israel, it's a draft, so I didn't have a choice. But at that point, I wanted to go to the military. I was so indoctrinated and kind of in this fret of society and culture. And but like now that I look back, I was a little bit older because I did like a year bridge between high school and the army. So I went into the army at like I must have been like 19 and a half, 20, and then I finished when I was 23. But I look back at it now and I'm like, that's so young to be put into, and it's different obviously when you're deciding, even though in your case it was a choice obviously because there's no requirement to go to the army, there's no draft, but it's also like, what are my options? I can be a failed person, or I can do this thing and maybe succeed, right? It's like this kind of idea that's planted in your head that's not necessarily reality. So I feel like, by me, it was like the idea that was planted was, this is what's required of you. This is how you give back to the country. When in reality, it's like, I don't have to do that. There's no requirement. It's like, a choice. But yeah, it's just so young, and I think a lot about it, like how young it is. And obviously in the current situation, like just people at this age are just like killing other people. And it's like, you know, it's not even a political thing of like who's right or wrong. It's irrelevant. It's like, you know, kill or be killed when you're in the army and you're in a war. It's like as simple as that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's whoever's in front of you. Like if you are in the mindset that they're going to kill you or you kill them, like that's just like a very easy thing to do. You don't think about, is this person innocent or not? Because you're being told like they're going to try and kill you, right? So it's like, it's a crazy thing to put 18-year-olds and young people through. And it seems to me, obviously I'd love to hear your take on it, but it seems to me like the military helped shape you in some way or form to like maybe snap out of your difficult teenagehood in something, you know. But I'm interested because I often think about this a lot of like, was it a positive experience? Did it do good for my life, you know? And I have, well, I should say, to be honest, I think it was negative in my life, but I don't judge or, you know, I don't feel like I know things to that degree of like, did this thing benefit me or not benefit me? You know, it's hard to really tell.
It's hard to tell.
As a staunch hippie, peace positive person, I'd like to tell myself that it was a negative experience, but you know, in reality, and for many years of my life, I always looked at it as like, okay, it was hard and it's in the past and it was very difficult and I was very depressed and etc. But I learned A, B, and C, and I, you know, matured A, B, and C. So yeah, I mean, like, what's your experience like that and take on that?
Yeah, I think about that a lot too, and I really don't know either. West Virginia can be a pretty depressing place, especially after I got out. I got even worse as far as like opiate addiction and things like that. So I do wonder, you know, if I would have stayed there. I felt like I wasn't really motivated to dedicate myself to much like back then.
Right.
And so it's hard to tell if the military is responsible for that, or, you know, I just aged through those years.
Yeah,
too.
just time. Yeah.
Yeah, could just be time. You know, I think it's given me a healthy perspective in some ways, but then also like I still have so much anxiety sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Trauma.
just even thinking
sure.
about that stuff. So, and I don't sleep for shit. And so you kind of wonder like, well, I might die like super young.
God forbid.
Just from adrenaline system being like screwed up. So I don't know, only time will tell.
Yeah. Time will definitely tell. It's a strange thing, you know. It's like your past defines who you are in the present, but doesn't necessarily define who you'll be in the future. You know, it's like we're, you know, going through this experience with our past experiences overlaid on top of our present experiences that are going to make our future experiences. And it's like all mixed into one big thing, right? Because time is, we view it as linear, but it's really not. It's like all happening all at once. So it's almost like irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like, was that good for me or not? It's almost irrelevant sometimes. Like, I feel like it's healthy to dwell sometimes, you know, on positive things especially. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the conversation around was it worth it or not is irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, thank you for your service, first of all. You're a hero.
Thank you for your service. Welcome home.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for and thank you out there for servicing us.
Yes, exactly. We don't take this freedom for granted. Okay, well, moving on to something more positive. VJing, was it very like a clear trajectory from motion graphics? And like, you know, I know you've been going to parties from a young age and you're kind of been in that scene for a while. Was it like clear that this was something that you wanted to do? Did you see it and you're like, oh, I want to do this? Or, you know, how did you get into VJing?
Yeah, I saw it like the first time I ever saw it was out at some psytrance party in the Mojave Desert.
Psytrance, let's go.
Yeah, and I had just never seen anything like that, and I didn't have any idea how it was made. It wasn't until I ended up running into this dude at another party in Santa Cruz, the sick party that used to throw every year up in the Redwoods. I met a dude there who was doing some like fractal visual stuff.
Which one? Which party?
It was a private party. This dude who like helped invent the Pentium processor would throw this epic party. They had a name for it. It was the bar. I can't remember what they called it.
Sounds sick.
It was sick. And yes, I met this dude there who was like telling me that he was using Archaeos. And I ended up finding like a cracked version of Archaeos and was running it on a computer I had. But could really like barely scratch the surface. I think I was just kind of using like whatever visuals had came with it and mixing them and trying to record like music videos. But I did buy a projector. I was like, this is something I want to pursue more. And then I kind of put that on the back burner when I started school. And then actually in school, there was a class that was called Beyond the Screen, where they touched on like, I'd never heard of resolume at that point. That was my introduction to resolume. This is in like, what was this? Like probably 2012. And about that same time, I saw the Amon Tobin concert at the Greek Amphitheater.
All right.
And like after that, I was like, dude, this is what I want to do. Like,
literally, dude, I can't even tell you, like literally every person in our age range, you know, like born in the 90s, like maybe it was interested before they saw that show, but that show was like, okay, I want to do this. It's like, I something about that show I think was just like, and looking back on it, it's like whatever, it's just cubes, like who gives a fuck, you know? But it's like, I think something at that time struck like a nerve with a lot of people, you know?
Totally. I mean, it's still cool today.
It's like, no, don't get me wrong, super cool. But it's like nowadays it's like whatever, you know? For us, it's like, okay, cubes, you know? But sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I wish like projection mapping would come back a little bit, because I feel like since the LED walls have gotten more affordable, you hardly ever see any projection mapping. I feel like it's rare.
Yeah.
Especially like something that's 3D, like doing 3D mapping. I feel like it's
definitely
pretty rare
in the
to
States.
see today.
Definitely in the States.
In the United States, yeah.
Yeah, in Europe and, you know, in South America as well, I think projection mapping is still pretty key. Maybe in the mainstream, I think you're right. I think it's more like LED screens because it's more, you know, it's like, what's that one called? The famous one with the fucking stupid thing in the person, you know what I'm talking about. Massive...
Excision?
No, not Excision. Excision's also the same type of vibe, but like, I can't remember. It's like, you know, the big screens, and it's like the biggest famous one was like this lady, and she just comes up, and then all of a sudden she starts moving. I just mean like in terms of, it's very curated, it's very time coded, you know, it's more akin to like a commercial experience, you know, whereas projection mapping is a lot more abstract and, you know, fun and interesting, experimental. So I think that in the mainstream it's maybe a little bit less, but definitely in Europe, even in the mainstream, you still have a lot of projection mapping for sure. And I agree. I'm totally with you. I wish they would marry them more. You know, like in the Tipper events, there's always like kind of a little bit of a marrying of the LEDs and the projection.
Yeah, that's true.
I also personally love projection mapping more. You just can do much more with it. You know, it's more structural. It's also akin to a stage. Like all my memories of stages don't involve a big rectangular screen. They involve some structure, architecture, something organic, you know?
And I love being able to play with like the negative space and the perspective. Like that shit is so cool. Just the optical illusions that you can pull off where you're confusing the audience so they don't know what they're looking at anymore. Like
totally.
That stuff's really fun.
Totally. And it's like, it's exciting because it's like a lo-fi technology, you know, but you're doing a very high-end result. you know, like changing perspective or creating 3D out of 2D. Like it's a very cool result with a very low, you know, just a projector and a software. I always thought it was really cool. So okay, so you get into so you saw this Armin Tubin thing by V Squared Labs, Velo, whatever, and you were turned on to it. What was the next trajectory from there? Like, how did you get into becoming a VJ? You were also a resident VJ at Wormhole Entertainment. You know, what was your push into that kind of role?
I started like projection mapping buildings and right away, and like I bought a bunch of cardboard boxes, painted them white, stacked them on top of each other. You know, so PVC pipe, you know, started doing that kind of stuff, and then just getting more into like creating video content too. And then one of my friends at school, his name was Kai. He knew Gleb from Wormhole and told me, like, you know, there's this underground music thing starting up. You should be in touch with these guys. So he linked us together. And they actually had another VJ too. His name, he goes by Field Effects, Jack Kern. He still lives in Oakland now. We started working together. At first we were like, you know, he wanted to do a separate thing. So we would have like 2 different projection mapped installations on like opposite sides of the world.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was so dumb. And then eventually we like, you know, like, for one thing, both of us didn't want to be there every week anyway. And it also kind of just made more sense at that venue we were at, but then Wormhole was outgrowing the venue, and it kind of made more sense that we have, you know, stage with visuals. Right. Then we started working with our other buddy, Greg. He has this company called Simple Machinist. He basically he works with metal and things. So he started fabricating our stages, and then we started getting booked to like bring them to different festivals, you know, always with Wormhole, and then let's see, like Lucidity, and they did I don't remember all of them. That might be it. I feel like we were at Lucidity a couple of times. And then some other festival, and I can't remember any of the names. But yeah, so we had some opportunities to do some really big, cool projection map stages. It was a lot of fun.
Was it a natural progression for you, like from going from, you know, kind of playing with motion graphics to then becoming something more akin to like a visual artist? Was there a big learning curve? Was it scary is not the right word, but was it like what kind of experience was it going from being kind of like infatuated by visuals to then doing it yourself?
I was just having so much fun. I feel like I started doing visuals for this opera in Sebastopol, and it was very low budget. Like, it is north of the Bay Area. It's like wine country, like close to Napa.
Napa, yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't getting paid hardly anything at all, but I was getting paid like something, and I was just happy for that. And you know, kind of, I had this mentor. His name was Matt Jones. He was kind of like into all these things from a very broad perspective, but didn't care really to get nitty gritty with it. But he was just kind of like exposing me to what tools I would need to do certain things. Like, we were trying to, you know, animate LED strips and projection mapping. We even did like 3D scanning and stuff. We're messing with touchdesigner a lot.
Touchdesigner, let's go.
And then my mentor kind of was like, don't tell them that, like, you don't know touchdesigner. I hope they're okay if they see this now. Like, just act like you know it, and then, like, you know, you'll figure out like what needs to happen. And that's basically how I like started getting into touchdesigner.
I gotta say, like, that's such good advice. It's like it's an anecdote, but it's so important. Like, you know, it's not even necessarily about being smart or being like a big brain. It's more of like a confidence thing, because especially when it comes to experimental art, and this is all experimental, even today, I would consider projection mapping and generative art and interactive art experimental. You know, I still think it's on that verge of experimental. When it comes to things like that, especially when you're not getting paid and it's more for like fun, why not say that you know the thing and then learn the thing when you get the job? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of almost counterintuitive, but in a way, obviously there's a gray area, right? If like it's a big gig and there's money on the line and there's like things, more people involved that might, you don't want to be, you don't want to ruin things. You don't want to mess things up. But if it's fun, or if it's even an opportunity to get your foot in the door somewhere, I don't feel like I feel like the bar of entry of like what people expect you to know with the software versus like learning a software in a certain amount of time is very small. Like, yeah, I know touchdesigner, and then you spend the next 2 weeks before the gig just sitting in touchdesigner, and by the time you get there, touchdesigner. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
totally. And then it's true too, like you're not going to know how to do every single thing in touchdesigner, but at some point, that you can figure it out. So you can be like, oh yeah, we can do that. You don't have to necessarily say like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you don't even need to know how to do the thing that you're saying we can do, but like having the confidence that you'll be able to learn it or figure it out in a time, I think is valuable. I think it also plays on that part of your brain of like problem solving at like a high level, with like stress and with last minute things and deadlines, which is a very different experience than like sitting down and watching a tutorial. You're gonna learn things in a much more like ingrained way. The synapses are gonna be much more firing.
Totally. Yeah, I've always preferred kind of learning like that, just diving in. Of course, if you're opening a software for the first time, like it's probably a good idea to like watch some video about the user interface or whatever. But
yeah, especially if you're opening in front of a client, definitely.
Totally.
know what to click on.
Yeah, for real.
Oh man.
Yeah,
that's so awesome. I love kind of hearing this. This. It's a very, and not to diminish your experience, but it's a very classic story of like. Starting in underground, kind of like not necessarily getting paid for the work, but having so much fun and feeling so part of something. And then kind of going from there to bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You're very successful as a visual artist. You're also humble, so I'm sure that's not easy to hear, but I'm telling you from my perspective, you go on tour with people and you do very big shows and, you're a high-end artist, so it's cool to see that your coming upness was in the underground and that trajectory was from an authentic and natural place. I think that follows through as you get more and more deeper into commercial and corporate world. If you come from an authentic place, then your authenticity is less likely to wean off. You know what I mean? Whereas if you just start in Insomniac events, you might not know what your thing is, because you're just being given VJ loops all day from other content and you don't really know. So
I can see that. And then that would make it so that you're maybe more afraid to take risks too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I could see that.
I want to shift a little bit to VJ adjacent things. So you make MIDI controllers, or you have these kits that you make MIDI controllers with, and I think now even you've made your own kit. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, please tell us about that. It's super fascinating.
Well, no, that first custom one I had was from Yale Techs, and their company, I think they're in Brazil, and they have like an online creation tool, and you basically just you pick which components you want, and you have to arrange them in groups of 4. They have like a small body, a medium body, and a large body. So my goal when I went with them was to kind of create like a perfect controller for resolume, where like all the things I like to do with my right hand are right where my right hand is, and all the things with my left hand are where my left hand is.
I love it.
So that was the goal with that. And I've always wanted to make my own MIDI controller. And for whatever reason, I just never did until recently. And I'm kind of motivated by the fact that the custom one I got from Yale Techs has one fader out, And then I have 3 APC40 sitting over here, and they all have something wrong with them too. So I was like, okay, I'll start with like making my own and then kind of learn how everything works. So recently, yeah, I was using a lot of basically a collection of like 3 or 4 different YouTube videos talking about making custom controllers to oh yeah, there you go. And I was gonna get a custom case for it, but then I ended up just going out and buying like a plastic kind of storage
Tupperware
container. Yeah. So finally successfully did that.
Is it difficult? Is there a lot of soldering involved? Like, what is the bar of entry here?
You could get away without soldering at all, for sure. And I kind of the way I chose to go about it, I chose to go the most simple to like start with it. So I'm using an Arduino Leonardo, which like has the amount of pins that I wanted built into the board, because otherwise you have to solder this other board on, and then in the programming it becomes like another layer for those inputs. So I was like, okay, I want to start with simple. So I just got like the amount of knobs and buttons and lights that I could fit into that Leonardo board.
So the Leonardo board it's like a pin board instead of a soldering board. Is the difference? I don't know enough about it.
It's the Arduino. It's a like microprocessor Arduino, but it has headers on that come on it, so you don't have to solder it. You can just take the what are those wires called?
Stripped wire. DuPont.
Yeah, and then plug those in like that. So I had to solder the buttons, and that was it. And I'd never soldered anything before, so I was like kind of afraid of that, but just started doing it. It was actually pretty easy.
Yeah, it's not so. I've also never soldered like professionally, but I had to do it I guess not recently, but a year or 2 ago for one of my motherboard pieces. It was like a very small thing, but it wasn't so difficult to do. It was more of basically the back of a back of my motherboard, like a piece in the back fell off, and it happened to be like really, really, really close to the power pin. And I don't know exactly if it was necessarily causing problems, but my computer didn't turn on and off. So the idea that I had with the people around me that were more into this kind of technical stuff was like, yeah, if that solder fell off, it could be that they're using that solder to connect to the power thing to whatever the fuck, I don't know. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And then, pretty straightforward. Definitely wasn't clean, and I definitely needed the people's next to me help. But I don't know. It wasn't like a high technical thing. I don't know. It didn't seem like too highly technical.
I'm sure you can get like really good at it and be really clean, but if you're just trying to solve the problem, then yeah, I'd say like anybody could do that.
Yeah. It's cool. And you also kind of play around with the flipper, which if people don't know, the flipper is kind of like a DIY. Well, I guess not a DIY. It's more of like a kind of a white hat hacking tool to kind of learn to hack different like NFCs and infrared and different protocols.
Bluetooth and
Bluetooth.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. What was your interest in getting into that? Please tell us about it.
Well, first of all, I will say you can definitely do some really shady ass shit with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. White hat. I mean, just so we don't get in trouble, or you get.
Okay. Well, I'm not, dude. I had to have talks with myself like before I got this thing. It was like, okay, don't ever do that. And I learned about some of the penalties and like some of the shit you can do with it will land you in prison for a while.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. So I just was kind of fascinated by it, and then I thought I justified it by thinking like, oh, it'd be cool like at a gig where there's a bunch of projectors, remotes, and I can program them to like all one thing. And I stay in hotels all the time, so wouldn't that be cool if I could copy my hotel card instead of having to go to the front desk at 4 a.m. and being like, oh.
I lost my card.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I thought it was just neat and fun. I was using it also, like the practicality of the bad USB thing could be pretty cool. Like if you have a bunch of different PCs that all need to be set to the same security settings, to the same password, to the same, all the same system user settings. You could very easily do that with a bad USB script and just go one by one, plug it in, hit the button, boom, like all the settings are the same, even the passwords. So I thought that was pretty cool too. But then also just like learning about how different communications work, I've found really fascinating. Like I didn't really understand like all the different radio frequencies and what they were used for. It's kind of the flipper that exposed me to that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, just like how securities work, security systems work. Like I realized, well, probably shouldn't say that. I realized that, oh, fuck it. I realized that our house security camera is like basically worthless if someone has one of these things.
Right.
You could
need
just
to turn it off.
knock all the camera. Yeah. Just knock all the cameras offline, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and then
dude.
also phones, I thought. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean it's crazy. Like I don't get a flipper, but I do a lot of reading on this hacking stuff, and it's crazy how unsecure our lives are. I mean, we don't have anything to hide, thankfully, from the government maybe, but not from like the everyday Joe. So I'm less worried about it. But it is crazy. Like, I was looking into like baby cams, for our baby.
Oh yeah.
And the ones that like shoot to your Wi-Fi network and then to the internet and then to your phone are like extremely easily hackable, and like they don't even have to be local. They can just hack into the server that it's being shot off from and like watch your kid, and that's like fucking crazy, like totally. So I got a local one that's just one way, just because of that. And even the one way, I'm sure somebody, if they were close to my house, could get into it, but it's just like a weird thing. And like you said, like the phones, right, which has all my personal information, all other people's personal information on it. And it's like anybody can just, get close to my pocket and fucking have a little device that will fucking copy everything into it, or copy a keylogger into it, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, with Android, it's a little easier than iPhone, but even iPhone too, if you can trick someone into connecting to a Bluetooth thing, like you could disguise a name to look whatever device in their house, and if you can get them to click on it instantly, you can run bad USB scripts that upload all their media onto a secret server. You can just wipe the whole phone out. You could download a picture from the internet, text it to mom in like 5 seconds, like as quick as a Ducky script will run, And then like Wi-Fi routers too. I was surprised, like people who are lazy or sloppy about that stuff. Or
the passwords,
especially if you have like a NAS, or you're sharing, personal data through your network somehow, like, putting yourself out there to be pretty vulnerable.
For sure. Yeah, I'm very scared about putting my NAS on my router. I have it connected directly to my computer, which is kind of annoying sometimes because I can't access it from my phone, or my wife can't access it. But it's like the thought of it being on my Wi-Fi network, and even the thought of it being on the internet is even scarier, right? Because then they don't even need to be local. They can just, and there was like a 0-day exploit for QNAP like a year ago, where like tons of people got their things locked out from. Yeah, it was a huge thing. They lost millions and millions of dollars. But, it's just wild. It's wild to think, and it doesn't stir me into like paranoia territory, but it does kind of make me think a little bit more about these things. You know what I mean? Like,
totally. Yeah, I mean, a criminal is someone who's minded to like want to do that, totally can do it. And it's not just the flipper. I didn't know this till later either, but everything that you're running on the flipper can be ran from an Android device, or, Linux computer or PC. So someone with a laptop parked outside of your house is, just as dangerous as somebody having a flipper.
Probably more, right? Because they can have more peripherals and more power and
more processing, because you can actually crack. They have a new device now. It's kind of like the flipper. I can't remember what it's called, but it's some spin-off of Tamagotchi, and it has enough processing power to run like AI
brute force
password cracking. So they do this thing called war driving, where basically like you walk around, you have a GPS attached and a Wi-Fi board attached. You can get back home, basically look at a map of like where all the modems are that you came in contact with, and like what brand and make they are, and then you can use the AI password cracker, because like people had to have a good enough idea of like how different devices will make you set the password.
Right.
You know, whether it's, you know, how many characters it is or what
Gotcha.
phrases they're likely to use, things like that. So yeah, you just walk around through your neighborhood, come back home
Without
like,
without being connected to it, you could do it offline and then bring it back and try it out, kind of thing.
yeah, you could actually do it there. I'm pretty sure with the, no, I could be wrong about that. I think this new Tamagotchi thing, you might be able to do it like where you're at, but like the war driving stuff, you can do that on the flipper, and then you would take it back home, and then you can crack the passwords at your home. Then you would go back out to
What? How does it know that the password's correct? It just gives you like some options.
Because
like it's store. It must store like a file or something, right? Like it must store some information.
I know it could do it with I know one method. What you do is you punt people off of their Wi-Fi, and then in that moment you can steal the encrypted handshakes. So, but then the flipper doesn't have the processing power to crack the handshake. But with that information, then you can go to a more powerful CPU.
And then and you already have the handshake, so you can just kind of save that information and then see if it works or not.
And then with the war driving thing,
it's wild.
I guess what you would do is you would first do the war driving, and then maybe you would look at what kind of router they're using, and if they're using like default login credentials, because that would be an easier target.
For sure. Yeah, most routers, not my router, but most routers have the default password, for sure. Yeah. And then once you get into the router, you just change the fucking Wi-Fi password and you're good. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I feel like, again, it's like, you know, like two-factor authentication, right? Like, yeah, like the fucking Mossad or NSA could crack it, or some like super crazy black hat cracker can crack it. But like the average person who's just trying to like fish data or something, you're going to deter them by adding these kind of things, or having like a really good Wi-Fi password, or having a really good router password. And it's like,
it's true.
You know, I'm not hiding from the NSA or Mossad yet, you know, and if I was, then you're not going to hide from them anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But like for the general average thing, like, yeah, two-factor authentication, you know, like have good passwords. Like I have super long passwords for everything. I was using like the, you know, you can, Google will like auto-generate you like a super random thing.
Totally.
I was using that for a little bit, but then it just started getting like annoying because I couldn't remember what the fuck anything was.
Yeah.
And it felt like
someone has. Oh, go ahead.
No, if somebody has access to my browser, my sync phrase, right, then they can get all the fucking random passwords.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, there's a bad USB script for that where it and then now with the latest update of the flipper, you can partition a drive, so then it actually saves like all the passwords on your flipper. So just takes a second, you can unplug it, hit the road, and then you got like all their passwords from the browser.
From the browser, but you need to have access to the browser.
You need that. No, well, you need to have access to their computer in that situation. Okay. Yeah.
But isn't it encrypted? Aren't the passwords saved on my computer encrypted?
No. There are terminal commands, and using PowerShell, you can retrieve all the passwords like you've typed on your computer that you have in your computer.
That's fucking crazy. That seems like something that should be easily fixable. Like, just fucking encrypt that shit locally. It's just weird.
Well, I think it's because PowerShell is pretty much the point where all that stuff becomes exploitable with the ducky scripts and things like that.
Right, because it's like the back end.
Yeah, you can create software in seconds, like through a script, and then, you know, have it do all kinds of things. You can have it turn the volume way up and play music, or you could, you know, you completely just start deleting System32 files or like, all kinds of, like whatever you want, basically.
Be careful, Mathew. Be careful. We don't want you to go to. We don't want you to go to jail.
I only do it to myself, but just to know how it works. But I have like fantasized, like, what if there, this has never happened because I'm not that skilled, but I fantasize like, what if there was some like situation where somebody needed my help, and this is like a sociopath fantasy. I think that's what they
for
call
sure.
those.
Or like your neighbor's pissing you off and you just like fuck with his lights or something. That feels like that. For that, it's worth it. Just like send your neighbor an email of like, I'm watching you. Talking about AI and kind of that kind of computer stuff, you have a very, I know you've been using kind of machine learning and AI for a while with Deep Dream. You've done some really cool Deep Dream stuff in the past, and obviously with the advent of DALL-E and midjourney and etc. Stable Diffusion, you've gotten deeper and more coherent with your AI work. What's been your experience with it? You made an amazing, super cool music video. Everybody should check it out. Music video for Super Silas. The beginning of everything, is that?
Super Cilious, the beginning of the world party.
The beginning of the world party. And that's a very unique thing to make a full music video in AI. It's not done a lot. What's been your experience with this kind of influx of machine learning and AI?
I remember, I think it was during COVID when some of the image apps like started popping up. Like, you remember, was it Wombo? Or like Wamba or something like that? It came out like everybody was using it for a minute, just playing with it. It was
I played with Deep Dream in like 2020, I don't know what, like 7 years ago.
Yeah, Deep Dream was first for sure. And then, some of the other cruder tools that you had to be a super nerd to like figure out how to get them to
Style
run.
GAN, all that kind of stuff. That was fun.
But so it was during COVID when like the Wamba app came out, and even still then, like it was very crude, low resolution things. But I remember thinking like, holy shit, like this is gonna change everything. And it just like kind of freaked me out. And I think I was actually sick with COVID. I was sick with COVID, and I was just like, holy shit, like should I find another career like right now?
I'm gonna die anyways.
Yeah, I did think I was gonna die too.
Yeah, of course. We all did.
But I was like fascinated with it, like couldn't stop messing with it, and so it's kind of funny. Like I had all the same kind of typical anti-AI arguments. Like those were my fears at the time, but like simultaneously, I was like obsessed with it and just trying to learn everything I could about it. And then I can't remember when I finally got like Stable Diffusion running locally, but yeah, I was just pretty much compulsively like couldn't stop myself, and I kept thinking like, oh, this is probably bad for my career. Like people are going to get mad that I'm using this, or they're going to judge me,
things. Right?
Yeah, or think that like this is all I'm about. But like, so then that's when like the opportunity came up talking to Super Cilious about making this video, and I was like, I kind of did have a video idea where I just wanted to do like one project, like one full-length video, and just dive in as hard as I could, try to use every single AI tool, and also try to use things in ways that weren't typical, because a lot of the arguments I would see on Facebook, people just raging out on there, I would see like ways around that. I'm like, well, that's not necessarily true, because you could do this, could do that, so part of me was kind of like, not that these people will ever see this, which is kind of funny, but there's part of me when I was making it was like, I'll prove you wrong with this one. But they'll never watch it because they don't want to know about it.
Yep.
And that's okay too. I understand that as well.
Like any new technology, or any new thing, especially something so disruptive, people get worried, people get worried, people get nervous, people don't, people aren't as confident, or, maybe I think the thing with AI is that the conversation, a lot of it is like, oh, anybody can do it now. So now, therefore, I don't have value because I've been doing this for 10 years. But
That is it. Yeah. A lot of times.
we know that that's not true. That's not true with any technology. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, things can be automated. That's a good thing. Having things automated,
Yeah.
having things easier is a good thing. You still need a brain to do cool shit. You know,
And the
like,
desire, like you still have to like do it. So, you
Yeah.
know,
exactly.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. How many hours did you put into this 5 and 6 minute video?
dude, way too much, dude.
Like, do you think it was more hours than you would have done it if you would have done it in like traditional After Effects 3D?
Well, so
It's a
I mean,
hard
it
question,
took
I
me
guess.
9 months, but I was also like, I was working like through this whole time. So,
Mhm.
you know, I would come back and forth. I definitely put like so much time into it, but like, yeah, it's hard to say. Cause like that scene maybe right there, like if I were to try to do that in 3D, it may have taken me, you know, 3 months and like,
yeah, just to
or
model it.
longer. Yeah, just model and the texturing and everything. So I'm sure, yeah, if that was all like 3D animations, it would have taken me longer. Yeah.
What I love about this clip and like a lot of your other AI work is somewhat akin to it, is just there is a very clear use of like character work, and there's a very clear use of like a style that's throughout the whole thing. Whereas like a lot of times AI is just like, you know, looks the same, feels the same, you know, like your shimmery stable diffusion vibe is like almost part of the aesthetic, you know, in a unique way, not in just like, oh, look how cool this thing morphs into this thing. And I think that's kind of what makes it more interesting and special than like most other AI stuff. And your use of like After Effects,
Thanks,
like
dude.
the puppetry and like just getting a character and then animating it by hand, you know, is like, that's where the magic is, you know? Because like, yeah, like modeling this fucking thing and rendering it and texturing would take forever. And I'm sure it took a super long time to get to this fidelity, but you know, once you get to this fidelity, you don't have to worry about all the normal 3D pipeline. And that's kind of like
Yeah.
my perspective on AI is like, I'm trying to use it now from projection mapping, where, you know, where there's a lot more temporal importance, and there's a lot more like control net importance of like having things within inside of the mapping. And like, if I can get to a point where it's not shimmery and, you know, morphy, which is like, that's not what I want from it, you know, then I don't have any reason not to use it, because it's just going to be able to make my things faster, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
able to iterate things faster. And like, for me, iterating things faster, automating things is what I'm doing anyways with my visuals. You know, it's what I'm doing anyways when I build things in Unreal or whatever. Excuse me. So I
Yeah.
don't see any reason not to embrace that.
Yeah.
Is it?
I feel
is
like
please
go ahead, please.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I think about like, I think it was Amon Tobin actually just a few days ago made a post about how like I think he was experimenting with some AI and then feeling like, you know, maybe he'd been wasting his time with 3D. But then I thought too, like, you know, our motivations for making 3D art isn't to have a cumbersome, you know, energy draining experience, you know. Like I love to work in 3D too, but it's not for the clicking around in different menus and like,
Right.
you know, things that make my hand hurt. But you know, the AI is just not, it's simply just not that powerful yet to do the beautiful things that you can do in 3D. But you know,
it's also someday for sure, but it's also like, okay, when that day comes, who's going to be able to use it better? The person who knows 3D like proper, or the person who, it's like the same thing with Notch and Unreal and all these real-time generative engines. If you come at it without having any 3D knowledge, yeah, you can definitely get somewhere and you can definitely do things. But if you have 3D knowledge then you're going to be able to understand these systems a lot better, right? Like if you generate AI and you don't know about compositing or about After Effects, then, or even Photoshop, right? Then you're somewhat limited in your, like in your final product, because it doesn't stop there, right? Like in 3D programs, it doesn't stop in the DCC. It doesn't stop in Blender. You know, you still have to texture, and you still have to rig, and you still have to render, and there's like a lot of different things, right? So it's like the AI is not the be all make all, you know, and even with Sora and everything, you know, you can generate 50 different shots in Sora, but if you don't know how to edit in a Premiere or whatever and composite in After Effects, then your final product's not going to be on the same level as somebody who does.
Yeah, I could see how maybe user interfaces, as they become more integrated with AI, and it's like something you could communicate with. Like you could be almost learning about compositing and things like that, because like your computer will explain it to you, like when you want to do it.
No, for sure. And I learned 3D I learned it backwards. I went into Notch and Unreal and then was like, okay, I need to understand like the basics of 3D to be able to use these proper, and went backwards. So I think you're right. And I'm waiting for that day, dude, when I can be like, hey, connect those two nodes, please, for me, you know, and I could just like sit, be like, hey, can you get the RGB values and put it in a chop and fucking put it in a connect stream? Okay, thanks. You know, like, I can't wait for that.
Yeah. You'll want to calculate like the pitch of a throw or something, and it's just like, you know, oh, we need to use algebra, and you're like, shut up, computer, I don't care. Like, do the algebra.
Use the right logic for this. Yeah, exactly. And if you do want to learn more, then you will. I think that, you know, that's going to separate kind of the trajectory of this thing, because I feel like a lot of jobs will be affected for sure. Like it just, you know, just like any invention of a new technology, or I should say the adoption of a new technology. But like, I'm not afraid of like content, like internet content, or like, you know, common denominated content being taken over by AI, because I don't do that anyways. You know, like you don't do that. You don't do that anyways. You don't make content that anybody can make anyways. So it's like, okay, so yeah, so if stock footage and internet commercials and TikTok videos get taken over by AI, and it's like, you know, we don't need those content providers anymore, it doesn't really affect me, you know, because I'm not doing that stuff anyways. So you know, this is obviously, who knows what's going to be,
who knows?
As time goes on, things will get better and better for sure.
And do we even have the ability to like stop it if we wanted to?
No.
Like maybe if I had a choice, which I didn't even like, because we don't have a choice, so I haven't really thought about that. But like, would I choose for AI to not exist? Like, I'd probably be like, let's push that button, see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you know, this is also a big thing about AI, is like, who's making the AI, right? I had this convo with Tommy recently. You know, it's like the technology, and this is kind of true for all technologies, right? Like the industrialists and like, you know, the farmers, the original farmers and stuff like that. It's like you can use the plow to feed your town, right, and prosper and be great, but you can also use the plow to now enslave 50 other towns so that you can have a bigger town, right? Like that's just like clear, right? So it's like really in the hands of whoever is kind of developing it and pushing it, and we just have to kind of hope and pray that those people will be good.
It's kind of it's. We'll probably it'll be both, you know, probably, hopefully more good than bad. But, you know, there's with the transhumanists, like one of the transhumanist points is like, you know, did human beings, we invented the spoon, but did we invent the bowl? You know, like a spoon is just like a bowl with a handle on it, but the bowl is just kind of something that's intrinsic to like the physics of our universe. And so it's like, it's not that, I don't think we can even like blame humans for like creating this, because it's really just like the spoon is common sense, and then you take that common sense and you like compound
Scale it up
a million times over,
Yeah.
and then we get to someplace like this.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. Okay, so before we jump into your set, which we're very close to, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about Unreal and interactive media and touch designer, and kind of like, you've been getting more and more into Unreal, and you've been, I don't want to say too much about what you've been doing, but you've been working in Unreal to create something interactive.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think you did post about it, so I feel like I can talk about it. But you're working
totally.
on a game that's a music video game. What's been kind of like the exciting parts about getting into Unreal, and kind of like, you found touch designer because you lied about it using it, and then and then you kind of jumped up into interactive media. What's been your experience with this?
I feel like I just, at some point, I love touch designer. I love like working with data in it and stuff. But I felt like when it came to 3D stuff, I couldn't get what I was really looking for. And the style of things that like I was finding tutorials for, seeing other people do, it was not really kind of matching the aesthetic of like my live VJ sets. I think, to some degree it could, but really what I wanted, I was really impressed by just Unreal's rendering capabilities. That was kind of my first interest in it. And then I love, I've done a few interactive installations, and doing visuals is, interactive. So
For sure.
I'm definitely excited to learn more about Unreal and how to incorporate it into my live VJ sets. I figured this kind of interactive music video thing was a good kind of start for me to dive into the blueprints a bit. And I am learning a lot that, will apply when I'm ready to incorporate them to VJ sets. I have a few ideas, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, your aesthetic for VJing is what I would call weird shit.
Wow, that was cool. How'd you do that one?
Weird shit.
Oh, you don't have to read your secret. Oh, cool. Tight. And I can make my eyes disappear.
It's actually pretty easy. It's in weird shit. It's the face tracker it's a face track chop in touch designer.
Sick. Oh yeah.
And just utilizing a few just tricks in there.
Using the NVIDIA tools, right?
It's actually built in. So the face track chop is just the chop.
Shit. Okay.
And there's in the snippet ops, in the op snippets, there's a bunch of examples of different use cases for data. So like points and instancing points. Then there is the NVIDIA face thing where it puts a mesh and deforms it. And then there's just like bounding boxes, a lot of cool stuff. And it's very, very lightweight. It's
awesome.
not super accurate, but it's definitely good enough for having fun.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by your weird shit.
Weird shit.
Weird shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, sorry.
It's fun to keep it weird. I do see like every once in a while someone on Facebook. Actually, a friend of mine told me the other day, he was like, yeah, a lot of our friends like your stuff. He's like, I can't stand it. He's like, it makes you feel uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, well, thanks for being honest.
Yeah, at least the honesty is there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too honest, maybe.
Yeah, well, I have to understand that it's not going to be for everybody.
Of course. I mean weird shit in the nicest way possible. I think that weird shit is the cool shit. Anybody can make motion graphics. Anybody can do motion graphics. Anybody can do abstract. Abstract art is like a child does abstract art. Not to reduce from it. I do abstract art too. But it's like to be to find your voice in abstraction is like very, very like broad and, you know, very like kind of blanketed almost. But when you find the weird shit that you like and you stick to it, then your voice is a lot more clear and potent. And so what if people don't like it? That's actually a good thing. That's actually a good thing, because it means if people don't like some of your stuff, if some people don't like your stuff, it actually means that the other part of the spectrum of people loving your stuff is more strong.
That's true. Yeah, I feel that.
You know what I mean? Like it's the opposite sides. Like if I'm so passionate about hating your stuff, then there's going to be people that are so passionate about loving your stuff, you know?
True. I feel like too, people just like want to talk sometimes, so they like say some opinion that really, like, I think I remember, like, it was Aphex Twin a couple years ago had a show, and like some post went viral because like the girl like walked from one stage to the other and got freaked out and like thought it was demonic visuals and stuff, so she made some like video of herself just like, this is bad, like,
right,
don't ever go to an Aphex Twin show, like it's evil.
Do you know what Aphex Twin is? Like, you know, it's like, hello. Right.
On that too, I feel like people used to take more chances with art. I haven't seen like any new music videos recently that I thought were like very cool. I think I'm just maybe out of touch, but
well,
but,
it's
know,
difficult.
Like
music, yeah, in the 90s it was amazing.
Yeah, and then like art too, like the cartoon shorts and things like Liquid Television, and you could go to VH rental spot and it would just be like a collection of like tripped out animations. Some of them only like 15 seconds, you know. But I always loved that kind of stuff.
For sure. If you're ever in LA, shout out to fuck, I'm gonna get the name wrong. Silver Lake Shorts. It's happens once a month.
I've heard of it.
It's cool, yeah. Our buddy Matt Siegel goes there a lot. He's part of that kind of crew.
Awesome.
But they do super cool stuff. It's like that. It's like 10, 15-second stuff mixed with like 10-minute short films, mixed with like 30, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it's just like a really cool collection of like cool stuff, interesting stuff that you would never see anywhere else.
Dude, that is rad.
Yeah, Silver Lake Shorts, definitely recommended. Okay, so we're going to jump into your set now. I'm super excited to see what you have prepared for us. What is it called? Sorry?
Yaletex is the brand. Yale. It's Y-A-E-L. Yeah. Y-A-E-L-T-E-X. It's super cool. Definitely check it out. It's like a wood body. I would say it's pretty durable, but I do have a fader out, which I guess is probably an easy fix, but I haven't tried opening it up yet.
Interesting. So is it expensive?
It is expensive. This one was like $640.
Oh wow, that is expensive.
Yeah, that was another motivator to like start making my own.
Considering it's like it's not that expensive actually, considering what you're getting for it.
Right.
They have support. They have a software that supports with it.
They do, although I've never used it. Yeah, actually, it's online through their web browser. You can configure the buttons to behave differently and things like that.
So the same thing that you use to make the controller kind of thing?
Yeah, they have a separate one for, you know, what do they call that? Like setting your values and whatever you want.
Yeah, like the
MIDI editor.
MIDI editor. Nice. Cool. All right.
Yeah, but I love this thing because, you know, like use my right hand for kind of these kind of touch effects so I can drum with it. And then I have, you know, my faders for my left hand over here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So you wanna give us a little bit of a overview of your resolume patch?
Yeah. So let's see. On the top here, this is coming in from touchdesigner. I feel like maybe I should start with the bottom, but yeah, let's start with the bottom. Okay, so these are kind of my main visuals for mixing, and then I will put effects a lot of times on this top row. I'm actually not finished with this project totally yet, but eventually I'll have more effects up here. So I kind of just mix these as video, and then I'll send this group out to touchdesigner, and then pipe it back in on top. So that way I can take advantage of some other real-time effects.
Cool.
So yeah, I touch on top here. And then this is just a solid black. So that way when I bring things into touchdesigner with the alpha channel, it doesn't show what's behind it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then this layer I just use as for a video router, and that's just for like for touch hits when I want to bring whatever's on bottom on top for just a second. So I might like in this scenario, I might want to mix these hands. Oh, what? Oh, like that. You know, just to do some flashes. That's probably not a great example, but I do that a lot, kind of, especially if whatever's on the bottom layer is a stark contrast, but also kind of mixes with what's on the top. You know, you can do cool things where it's like those veins maybe like flashing in the face, things like that. Then I try to divide things up into groups, into decks, I should say, based on the kind of style and subject that they are. And I actually just started doing this recently. I used to do it a long time ago, but then I quit and I was just using one deck with hundreds of clips. And at a certain point, resolume started behaving funny. So I had to break it all up into decks.
Rainbow mushroom. Yes, please.
Rainbow mushroom. This one, I think, is still... I just have the very beginnings of this. Like,
sick.
I still have a lot more to do on it. And I think because we don't see the middle mushroom, I don't have audio.
Hello.
Yeah, I only have these clips in here. Still got to develop this one, but I think it's like pretty fun right now. So I am excited to kind of develop this one more.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I thought I have Coachella coming up, and I think it was a couple weeks ago when I decided I needed to remake everything, my resolume project files. I was like, man, shit, I probably won't get it finished in time, but I'll at least like have enough stuff to VJ.
Something ready. Nice.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's fun in the moment to kind of choose clips and add things while you're in the show as well.
Totally. That was another motivation from getting rid of my other project file, because there were so many clips in there that if I tried to move anything to a different layer on the fly, it would like slow down. So it's like I have to have to put an end to using this technique.
Hell yeah. All right, let's go ahead and put some music on and dive into the mind of DI. Nice. Whoa. We should also say that this is all music made by Mathew as well, which is extremely potent. I love it.
I don't even like my own music.
I love it.
But
It's awesome. It's perfect. It's perfect for this. What a multi-talent. Sick. Super sick.
Oh, is that?
Damn. Bassy. Killer. This is beautiful. This AI?
No, dude, I think it's either Cinema 4D or After Effects. I can't remember.
Yeah. Sick. Nice. I love the sculpt. Nice.
I don't even know my own music.
It's awesome. Whoa, let's fucking go, bro. Some digital Introspect drum and bass over here. Damn, let's fucking go. Cube it up, baby. Whoa. I love this animation.
I should have blacked out right there.
We don't got time for blackouts, bro. Oh shit.
This song sucks.
I like it. It was really good until the end. No, it was really good till the end. The end is a little bit low, but now it's picking up again. I like it.
Yeah, I like the beginning of it too.
Yeah, it's picking up now again. That was sick, dude. That was really sick.
I made that song a long time ago. I kind of forgot about the ending. It does definitely fall off there.
It just got a little bit noisy. Yeah. But that was super cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'd love to if you want to show us more of your patch, or if you want to jump into more process, whatever you'd like to continue with, please feel free.
I could show like some other cool kind of looks I found that they're not fully developed yet, but like the other day I was playing with this, which this is one of the scenes from that Supercilious video, and then I have these particles from Unreal Engine behind it, and I thought like, wow, these play super cool together. Like kind of
that's really nice.
Moment. Yeah, I want to get more into particle systems in Unreal.
Oh yeah, Niagara is amazing.
I've seen like some of the stuff that can be done with it. I have no idea like how to get there, but I've barely just started kind of playing with these sort of things.
The awesome thing about Niagara is that it can be node-based procedural, but it's also like top-down, kind of like a menu, and the ability to switch between the two kind of ways of thinking and modes of animating allows you to do basically anything in the realm of, VFX, because everything starts from particles. Let's just be completely honest. Any simulation, any effect that you'll see in a movie, it's all based around points, and you can either put something on those points or use those points as they are, or use the points to mesh something. Even smoke simulations, even volumetric simulations, they're still relying on a box with different points and estimation and positional data. And Niagara, which is Unreal's effects engine, is built upon that as well. This is beautiful. I love that.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I have never tried messing with it in the blueprints. I've only used, their interface.
It's called scratch pads in the blueprints of Niagara are called scratch pads. Yeah, it's not it looks like blueprint. It's nodes, but it's basically like input and output, and then you can just do like logic in between. So it's good for like, custom based physics, or like all the stuff to do with fluids is all built in scratch pads.
I had not even heard of that.
Yeah. And then there's also the simulation stages, which basically allows you to, because basically a particle system has a stage, a beginning and an end.
Okay.
And then I love this model of this woman. I remember when you released it, it was such a beautiful model.
Thanks, dude.
And the simulation stages basically allows you to put in between the simulation more newer simulations. So it's like you can just kind of almost build upon different things. And like I'm talking about all this stuff, like I don't even know a quarter of it. I just know the names of the concepts and like basic ideas. But yeah, I mean, it's just super dense. It's super dense, and I highly recommend getting into Niagara more because you can really do anything in it.
Yeah, I really, really do want to. All I've done basically is generate the particles, put like coral noise on it, add different types of velocity. That's as far as I've gotten so far.
Hey, dude, curl noise is all you need.
It's pretty dope, huh?
Yeah, it's
makes
crazy.
Everything awesome.
It makes everything awesome, and it's like a function from nature. Like, okay, right. Cool. Like, fuck, I love that.
Yeah, I've always kind of gotten more into like trying to do things that could be natural.
Mm-hmm.
Not this one. This was supposed to be. Yeah, there's this Minnie Ray Simpson, I think is her name. And there's a street named after her in San Francisco. And I guess she was like a famous prostitute in like the gold rush era days.
No way.
Yeah, and she was a little girl when she started.
Huh.
Well, she was known for being pregnant. So like people would pay more to have that experience with her. Yeah.
Jesus.
And then she wrote a book when she was older. She wrote a book. I can't remember when it came out. It must have been like early 1900s, but it actually got banned in San Francisco, and there was a big like religious book burning that was like all about burning her book. So there's no copies of the books, I think, or maybe there's one, but
that's wild. So she was
underage
and pregnant. That was like the go-to.
Yeah, I think she did it, through adulthood too.
Right.
But there's very little information about her other than the street being named after her and the fact that she did have a book that was then destroyed.
Well, I mean, she must have been. She's got that good stuff. If she was a famous prostitute, she standed the test of time. She must have been a really good prostitute.
Yeah, I wonder. I kind of forget a lot of the details that I did read about her. This was probably a year and a half ago that I worked on this one, but I made her pregnant, in it. You can barely see her belly. Every once in a while, you'll catch a glimpse of it and see she's got a pregnant belly.
It's just no, I just love this type of visual where it's like, there's something drawing you in, like a shape or a figure, or in this case, like a body and a face, but then it's also like abstract and, somewhat like chaotic in a way, and it's just like, I love that dichotomy of like being in something that's more shape familiar and then going out into something that's more abstract and just pretty and interesting.
Yeah, because there's a chance that you catch it like when it's on the backside.
Exactly.
So that and it has like a reveal to it.
Yeah, I love it.
This we're a collection of like Unreal renders, and I brought the same model into Notch, and I think this one was actually rendered out of Notch.
Nice. The software that must not be named.
Whoops.
I'm joking.
I already did it. Notch is fun. I had fun with it.
Notch is great. I'm totally joking. I had the whole episode with Glass Crane that we jumped into Notch, and I gave my spiel.
I watched it.
I'm just a salty guy. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Well, at least you're honest about it. At least you
for sure.
You're not making up like other excuses.
For sure. I love Notch. I'm actually gonna get back into it. I haven't used it in like 6-7 months. Well, just because there's just like some things that like it does so well and so fast that it's like I feel like I would be shooting myself in the foot to not use it for some specific things. I'm still trying to like get all my what is it called? All my techniques into Unreal and TouchDesigner, but there's just some things that it's just so fast and easy to do in Notch that it's like stupid not to use it.
Yeah,
and especially if somebody's paying for the license, then
that's all. I won't use it again unless someone pays for the license.
yeah, it's too expensive.
It's expensive, and then it just keeps adding up, or it just keeps going over months. So, I'd rather just use something like Unreal for VJing, especially in the bass scene, because there's not a lot of money there anyway. Sure, when I go play like Madison Square Garden with Omar Apollo, and I'll pay for the Notch license for 6 months, but otherwise I'm not just gonna just keep it.
Yeah, and also like as much as Notch is fast at some things and fun in some ways, I get so much more. I feel so much better when I build something in Unreal. I don't know if it's like just a personal thing or not, but I feel like the more time I spend on a patch in Unreal, the more I benefit like my general trajectory of like interactive and immersive design. Whereas like in Unreal, I feel like, in Notch, I feel like I'm just doing something for that specific moment or that specific problem, and it's kind of like
that. Because they're not modeling in there, and is that what you mean?
No, it's just more of like the logic and the blueprinting or like the procedural nature of things in Notch is a lot easier and more straightforward. And like I know what to do there. I know how to get my way around it. And in Unreal, I kind of have to teach myself new things or learn new things or find new techniques. And when I do, it benefits me in like my general goal of interactive and immersive, like not necessarily specific to Unreal. It's just teaching me new techniques and workflows. Whereas in Notch, it's like whatever I'm learning in Notch, I'm learning for Notch. Does that make sense? It's almost like,
I can see that.
If I figure out a logic in TouchDesigner, I had to like build that logic. And in a Notch, it might just be one node, which is fine. There's nothing against. I'm not against that. Sometimes it's better to do things faster. But I feel like for my brain, like I've used Notch for like 6 or 7 years already. Like I'm proficient in it. I know how to use it. Obviously, there's always new things to like learn and and experiment. But I don't feel like I'm gaining anything from using it more and more. Whereas like TouchDesigner and Unreal, the more I use it, the more my brain grows in terms of like interactive and immersive design.
I can see that. And I do feel that at least for me, Notch was kind of limiting. Like I could find looks that looked great in Notch, but it felt like it had to be this sort of specific thing with, to me anyway, like bright meshes, like where you can see the grids and things like that. I thought looked really cool, but I guess I never actually tried like bringing in an environment map and having like a full 360 like indoor environment to see like what the rendering would be like to that. But
yeah, it looks good, you know, but it's very specific. Mathew, do you want to jump into like a project? Are you feeling up to that?
Okay. So you already showed through this music video a little bit, and I was just going to kind of show that you know, a lot of these images did start with midjourney. Like that one started with midjourney for sure. These frogs you see here started with midjourney, you know, separate image from the deer that started with
Could
midjourney.
you just press that little hide thing? Thank you very much.
Sure. All the characters were generated individually through midjourney, and then what I would do is I would then take them into Photoshop a bunch of eyeballs onto them, keep extending the bodies downward, and then kind of what's really cool thing about using Photoshop for this kind of stuff, it was now with the generative fill, because initially, you know, I was able to generate a whole body, but you know, like the hands were in front of the body. So if I wanted to control the hands, I had to be able to generate something behind it. And so Photoshop was super cool for that, because I could cut out the hand, and I didn't care which way the hand was facing. You know, who cares if it's wonky? But like if her hand was here, I could use generative fill to select this and then fill in the background with no hand. But now I can have it separate from that.
And it works well.
Yeah, it works really well. I mean, sometimes it would be perfect on the first try, and then, you know, sometimes it may take many iterations. But basically, that was kind of the process of building
super cool
out.
And you're separating them into like almost like bones, like you would with like a rig almost.
Yeah, totally. So then I could bring it into After Effects. I knew what body part is what, and I could build my rig then in After Effects.
Super cool.
Puppet, really. Yeah, it's, you know, similar process for all the different elements. And basically, some part of it was, I think for this one, I generated like a flat butterfly showing both wings. So then I took it in Photoshop. I can't remember how I made the body. I was definitely like cutting and generating stuff, and somehow added a body on there. And then I made a different wing. I have the same wing replicated for the animation of it flying and stuff, like you see here. Whoops. Jesus, can you hear that?
No sound.
Oh, okay, good. It was loud. So basically that's how I did all that stuff. If you look in here, there's all my midjourney renders. So
wow,
like these were used for the music video, and in this one, the midjourney tools, you know, everything was getting better. Like while I was working on the music video,
right?
So initially, I was only using Photoshop for like generative fill stuff, but then it got better with midjourney and Stable Diffusion too. So I started experimenting with both of those. But or even all three, you know, it would be like get something from midjourney, take it into Photoshop, bring that into Stable Diffusion, bounce it back out, get midjourney to describe it. What words is it using? You know, let me try to use these words for the next prompts. That kind of thing. There's a lot of like back and forth between all of it.
Super cool.
See, I never use like any of these, but I use this frog. You can see it's like getting its teeth out of here on this process.
Yeah, you see the iteration. It's interesting.
Well, and then this was all something else, and you can kind of see here me experimenting with this spaceship scene.
Are you getting into like ComfyUI and more like a procedural kind of stuff?
Totally, yeah. I really like it. Oh, did you see? You saw YouTube for a second or something?
No, I just saw Bert Kreischer in the top, like one of them in the top. Is that Bert Kreischer? It looks like Bert Kreischer. No. It's not. It's the bearded guy.
I don't know what I was trying to. Right-wing male with beard and beer belly, screaming, eating steak, drinking, griping soda, dressed in American flag.
Let's go, America.
I don't remember why I was doing that. I think I had an idea, like some stupid name or something.
That's so great. I love that.
These turned out pretty cool and were
Super
fun
cool.
to animate. And,
What is that? An art sculpture made from white and reds in the forest in the style of molecular Lovecraftian Yuki Katura.
I don't even know who that is.
What is it? Dedicate construction? Oh, delicate construction, solar punk, photorealistic detail, Mandelbrot. Super cool. I mean, it's just it's accurate.
I guess, I didn't even write these words. I had some other image initially. I think it was like some of these that were red resin. I started with this, but then now see, I didn't even know I can do that. But I basically would find like images that I wanted it to be like, and then I would tell like Midjourney to describe it, and then
you'd use like a reverse prompting.
Exactly, yeah. So like out of those words it gave me, and then I would experiment with those, like cutting some of those out or adding some words from my original prompt or whatever to try to kind of steer it in the direction I was going.
Super cool.
But
what were you showing us before? You were showing us was that ComfyUI that we saw before?
Oh yeah, that was ComfyUI that popped up there for a second. I was experimenting with like the motion lures and the video to video stuff. So like I can't dance at all, so it's just pretty embarrassing. But like,
is that you? Holy shit, that started from you. That's so interesting.
Yeah, so I started with this. I took shit.
Oh my God.
Okay, stop. Oh, he's down there too. Get out of here. Stay away.
So yeah, walk us through this. This is really super interesting.
Yeah, so that video, filmed here in my office, took it into After Effects, did the AI background removal. It looked like crap, but it actually didn't end up mattering much. And then these were like stable diffusion renders that are like the image guides for what's going on. And then I also have like text prompt in here.
So what? The video is being piped into those image guides plus a prompt?
Yeah, it is using this kind of workflow has everything in it, and I'm not using all of it. This was a shoot, I wish I could remember this guy's name, but this guy like made a tutorial kind of where
how to use this patch.
Yeah, how to use this video to video workflow. And
some control nets.
There's a lot of different control nets. There's a lot of different things, and some of them are disabled. The ones that are like grayed out, I'm not using at all. I tried to use this one actually. I never got it to work, but and then these are the Laura's. Different checkpoints. I have a checkpoint for like the animation and then checkpoint for style.
What does the checkpoint do? So you can like change things without ruining things before, kind of thing?
No, well, it's like a reference to a certain style. So like basically the checkpoints I like are the ones that people make, I think, to generate porn, because if you look at like their sample images, it's all like pornography, but I like using those because it gives me like, the realistic body parts and being able to see inside the body and stuff. It does really well with.
Wait a second. So checkpoints are like a Laura almost?
Yeah, well, they are like a Laura, because you have Laura's for motion, and then you also have Laura's for styles, and then you can train your own checkpoints in Laura's. But yeah, it's like a checkpoint, I guess. I
haven't heard of checkpoints before.
Yeah, you might even be able to say that Laura is a checkpoint. I'm not sure about that, but I know that maybe a type of checkpoint. Yeah, but like if you go to Civic AI, you'll see like a bunch of checkpoints that are there for you to download. But then you can also get like style or motion Lauras.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
yeah, different checkpoints can give you either like, do you want it to be like super photorealistic, or
Right.
you want it to look
Anime.
like a 3D render or anime,
Right.
of course.
Right.
And then Laura's, you can do stuff like you can train it to like see a bunch of eyes, or make sure you can train it so that the eyes are always looking at the camera, or you can use a Laura to make sure there's multiple people that have different faces, things like that.
Or make sure that the breasts and private parts are all proportionate.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that kind of stuff too. All kinds of things, really. I would pull up Civet AI, but like if you go to it, where I'm logged in, it like is uncensored, and some of the stuff that like shows up is pretty out there.
Oh yeah. There's some crazy training stuff going on.
Well, these are all. They're pulling a different output. I did a similar one like this using the same video. Oh, that one's not gonna work.
So you've been finding ComfyUI to be comfy?
Yeah. I mean, at first I was like, "What the hell," and I still don't like understand everything, but
Right.
It makes more sense to me now than it did. But trying to look for another project to open in here.
I haven't dived into it yet. I'm gonna for this summer for Modem. I'm gonna try and make some stuff. I just love. I was using the 3144, whatever it's called, the local web GUI.
Oh, Auto
What's it called?
1111.
Yeah,
Automatic
1111.
1111.
Yeah,
that one's
and
cool
it was good, because it just allows you to load LoRa's, load control nets, load different libraries, but it does definitely not anywhere near as procedural and node based as this. Oh, look at that, beautiful man.
Yeah, so that was another experiment. I didn't really like how
Super
this
cool.
one turned out. But yeah, each time you do it, you can drag off like a copy, so then you save your old ones. And the other cool thing about ComfyUI is like I have this window with all my outputs here. I can drag it in, and it'll open that project up. Which
Open
is
how it was made, or open
Yeah,
just like a
because-
video.
Yeah, it opens how it was made because it saves the metadata.
The metadata.
in the
Wow,
image.
that's
Yeah,
super useful, huh? So you can kind of go back and make processes.
totally, and it makes it super easy of sharing like your files with other people. The files are
I love
incredibly
that.
light, like and
And it has ComfyUI
Okay.
has like upscaling, right, and like interpolation things.
it does. Yeah.
What are you using for like video? What kind of model is it for the video?
For this one, this is actually Animate Diff, but what
Animate
I prefer
Diff.
now is the new LCM models are super sick. I'll open one of those up. Animate Diff for me, it was very hard to get something that I
Control.
could use. But then let's see, let me find some of these made it in the music video even. Let's try this. Oh, anyway, I got to check. And this looks not right. Something's wrong with that one. Let me try a different one. Something seems to be broken about this workflow. I can't get any of the LCM stuff. Oh, I know what I can do. Let me go back out, go into workflow. This is a workflow I got from Pixel Pusher.
Okay.
No, it's definitely broken. There's something wrong with it now.
It's not loading the proper thing.
Yeah.
Pixel Pusher, I'm familiar. I think he makes like different resolume effects. Am I right about that?
There are like 3 different artists with the name Pixel Pusher.
Okay.
One is a VJ here in San Francisco who does like house music stuff for Opulent Temple. And
Okay.
then the other guy, he's like way into this AI stuff. And he's making like some really cool workflows. And I'm actually
Awesome.
trying to find this. find it right now. Trying to find an output image that we can put in here. Let's try this one. Let's just see if it works still. And hopefully my computer doesn't crash. I didn't think about that. Well, it is slowing down, huh? The audio is cutting out. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. I think it is slowing my computer down pretty significantly. It does appear to be working. It's doing something.
This is that what you were saying, that LLM? Or what do you, yeah, you said like a new LLM model? LCM,
yeah,
sorry.
You can see right here, it's trying to build it right now. So basically, this is no text prompting in this example. This is a straight image to video. And then I have this animate diff LoRa that's called shatter, and that'll give it this kind of, this sort of motion that you'll see when it's done. I've experimented with a few ones. I found a LoRa that was called Bubbles, one that was called Shatter, and maybe a couple more, but they all kind of have different looks to them, so it's pretty interesting kind of playing around with them all, seeing what you can do. But this with this method is how I've gotten like the cleanest animation, even better than Runway ML in situations, but I don't know how to take the last frame and feed it back in like Runway ML does automatically, but you could, just do that manually. So now it's generated our frames. We can see them right here. And right now it's putting together the video. Because we picked that shatter, that's what's giving it this kind of look that's like moving out and away. And,
interesting.
Yeah, and so when this one finishes, I'll show you the other one. Looks like it's still trying to...
pretty nice like temporal consistency,
Yeah,
I mean, it's still like got that shimmery kind of vibe, but there is more consistency than not, which is cool.
Yeah, so if I go back over here and let's see. So this one's called Explosive. Let's see if this will give me a different look. I'll take a minute to go. But you get about 4 seconds. Or no, I can't remember. You get 32 frames, and then, basically I'm taking it into Topaz after that, and then turning that into 60 frames a second with frame interpolation. I usually slow it down to twice the speed, and then up-res it to 4K. That's kind of how I got the results I was getting from that music video.
Yeah, I've been using Topaz as well recently for Unreal renders, just like going from 30 to 60 and from 1920 to 480 to 3840. It's just like the amount of time it takes to do that versus having to render it as the full resolution, full frames is like, it's almost an 1/8 to a 1/16 of the time. And like, we're talking about 4 hours versus 1 hour versus 4 hours, sometimes even 20 minutes versus 4 hours. And the results, like visually, it's impossible to tell the difference.
Right,
the frame interpolation, sometimes you can tell the difference because it's like sometimes gets a little bit choppy, but the up-res, it's impossible to tell the difference.
Yeah, it looks sick. It looks really great. I remember being afraid a long time ago, like, well, what's going to happen when like you have to have 4K visuals? Like, I'm going to have to get rid of all this 1920 by 1080 stuff. But actually now you could just freaking upscale it in Topaz and you're good.
Nice.
Which is tight. I think it was
cool.
Stephen Heyman said like, we were talking about this and he's like, by then, dude, you'll be able to use AI to upscale it. I was like, I don't know about that. But sure enough.
Yeah, Topaz has been around for a while. Even before the AI craze, AI upscaling has been around for...
That's true, because even After Effects has a built-in.
Even After Effects has an upscaler. No, but even like Topaz Gigapixel, I remember using it in 2016, 2017. It was like, it wasn't for video, but you could pipe in image sequences to it. And even back then, I mean, it was just like ridiculous, I love this. Yeah, I feel like the biggest power in AI is like the iteration, which is kind of like for people like us that like to experiment and like try out fun things. Like that's why real time for me is so fun, because real time means I can just iterate and play. And like here it's like you can kind of play and iterate on like a content level, which is very interesting.
Yeah. That, now that you mentioned, that's the other thing I really like about Unreal is like just being able to see your animations like right away. Because so many times I just wouldn't do a proper preview in Cinema 4D because maybe I'm like right about to go to sleep. And so I'm just like, I'm just going to throw this on to render. Yeah. And then like in the morning, you see there's a big mistake. So Unreal is super sick for that.
I mean, I hate it. I totally agree. I still, whenever I render in Unreal, I'll still have a lot of disappointments, in the morning. But it's, but it's definitely a lot less because you can really see like your final output in sequencer in real time. It's just sometimes when you convert that, what you see in sequencer to real time to when you convert it to like more anti-aliasing iterations, different, distances, higher quality, sometimes you get disappointed in the morning, but definitely a lot less than like just throwing a render to see what it's going to look like running at speed, Yep. Well, this is super fascinating, seeing your AI workflow, getting more acquainted with your After Effects, and thank you so much for that set. It was lovely. Seeing and hearing your music and visuals together, it was super nice, super nice.
I really appreciate the opportunity, dude. I've had a good time.
Of course, we're not done yet, bro. Relax. We're just done with the set segment.
Oh, okay.
Jeez, come on, man. I have a bunch more questions for you.
Oh, man. It's hot in here.
Yeah.
With all these computers.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, you're like we've kept on saying, you're a working, successful person. You have you work with big clients. You're doing Coachella now, and you go on tour sometimes with other artists. You also do commercial / corporate content through your company DigiDune. Am I saying that right?
DigiDone Media.
DigiDone Media.
Yeah, totally. I hardly ever go by that, honestly. I made that initially because I thought, like, we had just moved to Sacramento, and I thought, like, I was going to be out of work. And so it was also, like, during COVID and stuff. So I was trying to brand myself in a different way for those kind of corporate clients. But really, like, the only people who've ever hired me for that kind of work, like, they already know me anyway. So so it's really like for nothing. At this point.
It's not for nothing because it's smart to have. I have this problem with my website, like, and Rem Visuals is like all my virtual production, all my visuals, all my projection mapping is all in one place. And I've tried to like separate my reels, so I'll have like a reel for XR and virtual production and a reel for modem and psychedelic shit. But when you go to my website, all you basically see is psychedelic cool shit, which is great. But when I send corporate or commercial clients there, I know for a fact that I've turned people off just by that. Even though, like, I say, hey, just scroll to the bottom where there's the XR reel, I know that sometimes people are perturbed by those kind of things. Some fucking sooty motherfucking loser, it doesn't like sees colorful stuff. It's like, oh, But I kind of like, I never had the energy or time to make a new website or rebrand myself. And I've just been very lucky that the people that want to work with me like that kind of stuff. You kind of said that for yourself as well. But, you have any tips for, staying working, for getting clients, finding work? Have you have any insights for us with that?
Don't do anything that I do. I just get lucky. I think it was really about just like, for me, it's been about building long-term relationships and just getting recommended by other people. It's kind of how I've fell into all the positions that I have. So mostly just like through word of mouth. So I guess, don't talk shit, which is hard to do, but don't do it.
I failed.
Yeah,
I fail at that.
Yeah, like publicly or what?
Well, not publicly, but behind closed doors, I definitely talk a lot of shit.
Well, you got to sometimes. Yeah,
I can't help it.
I have relationships with like a couple people where we just have like a shit talking relationship where we're just like, man, what is wrong with everyone else?
Yeah.
We're dope. Everyone else fucking sucks.
Yeah, that one guy especially.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I wish. I think if I would have played things differently, I probably would have been more successful. Or if I possibly could, like so many times I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to make something sane that everyone can enjoy, and then then I'm about like 15 minutes into it, and I'm like, oh, but with some teeth, this would look real cool. Oh, with the tongue coming out the Yeah, it just it comes out. So I kind of just have to accept this is who I am, and the people, like you said, people who like it will like it. But I think if I had like a safer aesthetic, I probably would get a lot more work. To be honest. But fucking who cares? We're all gonna die anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's not for sure, and that will lead me to my next question. But it's not only about getting more work or having commercial success. It's also like maybe, and this is obviously like what we were saying before of like retrospect is 2020, but it's like maybe if you would have done that, then you would be less happy or less fulfilled with your work.
Totally.
Having more clients doesn't even equate to having more money necessarily. You can make the easy argument that if you're more commercial and more, in the corporate world, that you're now less of a unique thing, and you're now kind of in the pool of work, and you're not really dictating prices. You're kind of being told what they're going to pay you. It's not necessarily true for everything, but it can be. Right. I know a lot of people who go to school for motion graphics and found a really nice cushy job. And when they were first starting out, like that cushy job, the 6 figures was like, oh, that's amazing. But then 10 years down the line, or whatever, 5-6 years down the line, they're doing the same shit. They haven't built a portfolio. And that cushy job of the 6 figures is like, kind of, they could be making way more money if they were doing something else. And like, obviously, again, to each their own, and everybody has their way.
$6,000 a month to rent in New York City and San Francisco.
Totally, easily.
So then, is it worth it? Like you got an awesome job,
but you have to live in some expensive place for sure. That's definitely it's definitely changing now with remote work, but it's changing, and then it kind of flips back around. And also, at the end of the day, when you work for a big company, even if you're working for them for 6 years, they can fall under any time, and then you're out of a job. And you do have your resume looks nice because you were at a job for 6 years, but it could also be detrimental because you don't have a portfolio and you don't have a unique style per se. And that's obviously, again, like to each their own. Everybody has their trajectory and place in what they're doing. And at the end of the day, if you're happy and you feel good, it doesn't really matter how you reach that point.
True.
It could be.
That's how I feel too. I feel wealthy in my heart.
Hell yeah.
But I am thinking about like moving out into the country too.
I recommend it.
I'm just
highly recommended.
Yeah, because I just got to keep convincing the people that, like, they can pay me to fly out, but it's a little more expensive to fly out from like where I was looking at. I was actually looking at going back to West Virginia.
Oh wow, like really out there
by the airport in Charleston. Yeah, there's ups and downs. It's close to New York City, and like also like Knoxville, Nashville, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Myrtle Beach, Richmond, Virginia. There's a lot of big cities around them too. So
honestly, when it comes to rural living and like living more out in the nature, I feel like it doesn't really matter where it is. And yeah, maybe like the first few times, well, with returning clients, they're going to pay that extra fee, whatever it is, to get you out there because they want you. And with maybe new clients, you're going to have maybe a little bit more of a curve of like, okay, we can only afford $400 for a flight and the flight's $550 or whatever. So maybe you're taking a little bit of a cut here and there. But once you start creating that value for yourself, then that $150 extra that you needed to fly out is saved in your rent being $1,000 less, or by you having to fly out less amounts of time because you're getting more hybrid work, you're getting more, there's always like these things,
Sure.
For me, it always comes down to like, do you feel better in nature? Do you produce better?
Yeah.
Do you have more happier moments? Are you more quiet and more peaceful? If yes, then the downsides of having less work or being more expensive are like irrelevant. In my perspective, yeah.
You're in the mountains, right?
Yeah.
So awesome.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
We moved to the mountains when we were living in Israel. Like, I met my wife in Tel Aviv, and then we moved to the mountains. And Israel's smaller, so it's like, the mountains was an hour from Tel Aviv. But the lifestyle of being in a small community, being in nature, being able to just like walk into the forest, it changed my life. It like, in retrospect, I kind of grew up that way and, didn't really appreciate it or understand what it was. But it just changed my life because I just realized like how much better off I am. And don't get me wrong, like the city was amazing for me. I started my career in the city. I went to school in the city. I met my wife in the city. I got my dog in the city, like so many good things. But when we moved to the States and we lived in Pasadena, it's a suburb, but it's still a city. We were very lucky. We were in a cul-de-sac. It was very quiet, nice neighbors, very communal. But the moment I went for a walk with my dog or, now with the baby, like walking around with the baby, it just, cars and noise and energy.
Totally.
And even when I was at home in my little garden and it's quiet, there's still city shit, there's cockroaches and there's, weird animals that shouldn't be going through my garbage cans or whatever.
People like looking through your car.
For sure. So I'm much happier here, and it's, we are lucky because I'm only an hour and a half from LA. So when I do need to go into LA, it's not such a bad commute. With traffic, it's like 3 hours. So I have to get double lucky of also being able to arrive to the gig after hours of traffic. But then again, like if I don't have that privilege, then I'll stay a night in LA, and if the client's paying, then great. And if not, I have enough friends to just crash on somebody's couch for the night and, save my 3-hour drive. And if I don't have that option, then I'm happy to drive because I know that like it's nice here because it's the bottom of the mountain. So it's like an hour to the bottom of the mountain. And then it's like 30 minutes up the mountain. Once I reach that bottom of the mountain, that half an hour drive home is like, it's like bliss. It's like I don't even feel like I'm driving. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just flying up home. So it's like, there's so much benefits to it that all the downsides are like really irrelevant. And this actually, I wanted to ask you, I suffer myself from, I don't, thank God, have hardcore mental health issues, but I suffer from depression and I suffer from, feeling down and having ups and downs. I don't think that I have like, manic episodes. Well, I definitely have manic episodes. I'm a human, but like, I don't have like, the bipolarness of it, but I do still suffer from that. And even being out in the nature, I still have these moments. For me, art is a very healthy escape for that. Whether it's like forcing myself to sit in front of Notch or sit in front of Unreal or sit in front of TouchDesigner or whatever, or sit in front of Blender, or whether it's forcing myself to like, okay, today I didn't do anything. I want to learn something today. Opening up a tutorial, following it for an hour. You know, there's all these kind of things that they're definitely escapes, right? I'm using this tool as an escape like I would a drug or an addiction, but it's a healthy version of it. It's progressing my trajectory in my life. You know, I'd love to hear your perspective on that and kind of like, you know, where your mind's at in that sense.
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly an escape. That's for sure. It's like something to do with that energy too. You know, if I wasn't doing this, I really don't know what else I would be doing. But I don't really notice so much where it's like, oh, I'm depressed, so like I'm gonna do this as an outlet. I don't really think about it like that. I just kind of like do this every chance I get. But I would say, yeah, it's probably, you know, it definitely is an outlet. Like it's a place where all the energy is going that would just be like some kind of anxious energy without that outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think about it much. I've talked to other people who were like, "Oh, I know why you do that weird shit. It's because you're like fucked up from the Marines or something." And I'd be like, And I'm like, that, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I kind of doubt it too. But I don't know.
You did say something interesting before, that after the Marines you came back and you had an opiate addiction.
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't. West Virginia started suffering from like its opiate problems in an extreme way. So I often wonder, like, and if I was there, like in the peak of all that, if I stayed around there,
if you would have,
might not have made it.
Copy.
Coming out of the Marines, I did have some like pretty serious problems for a long time. Like straight up delusions and things like that. Like serious mental health problems.
How did you treat yourself?
Drug abuse.
The best treatment.
Yeah. Taking dangerous amounts of psychedelics, drinking myself to sleep. Yeah. But I did it for a long time. Yeah, it's really been kind of more recent since having kids. A lot of my lifestyle has changed. You know, because you can't be doing that shit when you got kids, like, you know. So, and it's not like I had to make an effort. It was a pretty natural progression out of that. Like, you know, seeing my son and just being like, oh my God, I am responsible for this. So, it was kind of pretty natural evolution out of that. But I think too, I'm also still healing, definitely. But, you know, just getting older and more mature too, and learning how to behave, handle myself. You know, you get sick of getting in trouble after a while. Like, you know, it starts to beat you up.
For sure.
No.
Yeah, getting in trouble is always a really interesting thing. I mean, that was my whole military service was getting in trouble. Like, I was the class clown, whatever. I was the unit clown. I was always getting punished, and you know, I like got what is it called in English, when you get your parent grounded. I got grounded all the time. You know, I would stay like 60 days on base when like the most you're supposed to stay is like 24, and yeah, like getting in trouble. But it was like it is interesting. Like at some point you're like, what's the point of getting in trouble? Like, why am I, like, what am I gaining from this? And I think I was too young to really ask that question, because I was more in like the fuck you mode of like, you know, I find this funny. Like, I don't give a shit if it gets me in trouble.
Right.
But it's a maturity thing, you know? It's kind of what we said before about the army. Like, you're not mature enough, you know? I have a feeling that that's kind of the trick. You know, the powers in control, like, want you to be immature, because those make the best, like, immature people make the best grunts, you know, make the best, like, followers, don't ask questions kind of thing. Like, the more mature...
the lack of sympathy and mercy for, like, lack of compassion too.
Yeah. just not understanding
in
compassion
ways.
enough, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't know much about compassion at 18. You've maybe been in love. You've maybe had a loved one pass away. Maybe you've had some sort of experience with children, but it's like it's very minimal. You're still developing. I mean, like just on a biological level.
Yeah, I barely get in trouble anymore. Like, if
just
I
from
leave
your
like a
wife,
poop
I'm sure.
streak,
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I leave a poop streak in the toilet bowl, then I hear about that.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I get in trouble for the seat being down or up, I guess, for not being the seat not being down. Damn.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's better for you. I think if I wasn't leaving poop streaks, then I would get in trouble for leaving the seat up. But for now, I'm still leaving poop streaks.
You got to get in trouble for something, because for
Yeah, exactly. You do have to get in trouble for something. Yeah.
I want to talk about kids in a second, but I feel like we're in this kind of, mental hair kind of thing, mental health thing. You've been to lots of parties. You've been around this kind of, quote unquote drug abuse, quote unquote, taking things far. I wanted to ask you this question because the Wormhole Entertainment, when I was kind of looking at it, they also have a nonprofit, called Wormhole Care. And in Israel, we have lots of like psy care kind of organizations. And it's like a very heavily studied and like scientifically studied field, psychological studies field. What's your experience been with this? Have you ever, helped somebody through a tough experience in a party, and kind of like, how does that meet you?
I think it's a great idea. I have definitely interacted with people that are too far gone. I've never personally had to get help like that, except for the time that I ran to the fire department. They were not trained in that department, but I think it's definitely great and much needed thing, because people are going to do psychedelics. Like, I've been doing them since the beginning of time too, and I don't see anything wrong with having somebody there who's experienced with that can help guide you if you're having a bad time. I haven't had really a bad time on psychedelics in a really long time. Actually, when I first got out of the Marines, I was trying to trip again, and every time I would have like a terrible trip. And then eventually I just kept doing it anyway. And then I learned to enjoy the bad times. And now I feel like I just got so much experience with it, but I'm sure I could screw up if I really tried to.
I'm sure I could have a bad trip if I force myself into it.
Yeah, if I do something real stupid. But yeah, I'm glad that stuff exists. I used to work with Maps as an intern. I was like their web design intern in Santa Cruz. So that was cool, like getting to meet them and learn what they're all about. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. And it's so crazy to think about how the mentality has changed around these substances, especially like in the last, even like, what did you say, like 5 years or maybe
even less? I mean, ketamine therapy is pretty new. MDMA therapy, I think, is like a good 20 years old. They were doing it for a while. And LSD obviously was... The thing is that it's hard to tell, because in the 60s, when LSD was like, first kind of coming out, I guess more before the 60s, but when it was first coming out, there was, it was all for research. It was all research based. And even when I can't remember her name, I always forget her name, the lady that brought mushrooms to America, the West, the first initial people that she brought it to were not like Leary and these people. They were actual scientists that were studying it for mental health. And then obviously the war on drugs happened and everything became like Schedule 3 or whatever the fuck.
Was this in the 50s or?
Yeah, in the 50s. Okay. Yeah, early 50s and then early 60s. I think when did the war on drugs start? It was Reagan, right? Or it was before Reagan? It was what's his name? That fucking douchebag.
I thought
Nixon.
Nixon? Yeah, Nixon was the big guy on the war on drugs.
That cocksucker.
It's kind of, yeah. It's all wild. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that like the people in the United States, like besides the Native Americans, like didn't have any knowledge of psychedelics or like barely any knowledge of psychedelics. It's so
It's
crazy
wild.
to think
The whole
that.
world, dude. The whole world. And it's weird because, like, you know, if you look at McKenna talks a lot about this and a lot of, you know, Joe Rogan-esque kind of things, but like you had in Greece, they had these Euclidean mysteries, right? They're called, or not, yeah, is it Euclidean? I remember there's something mysteries, and it's like they had a drink, and the drink was most likely a form of fungus, distilled fungus, form of LSD, basically. You know, this is pre like Amanita mushrooms, pre psilocybin. Those were like medicines used in tribal stuff. But in Greece, you know, which is what, like ancient Greece is 1,000 years ago, right? Something like that, 800 years ago, something like that. You had, right? I think maybe more.
Not
We
sure.
don't know anything about history, but either way, during that time, you had this, and then there was like this period where Western culture totally lost all of this knowledge. You know, you had in the East, you had soma, right? They had the soma drink that was a very well kept secret, and they were using hash and different types of plants always to kind of like elevate the spirit, elevate the medicine, make it like, you know, more of a ceremony. But in the West, they totally lost all connection to plant medicine and psychedelics. And you're right, it was like lost until pretty recently. I mean, past less than 100 years, was it resurged back into Western culture. I mean, it's wild to think about.
Yeah, because you would think like in the 30s and 40s, there must have still been benzines like growing on cow shit. You know, but
nobody was like, eat that, you know. I think the earliest, from what I know, is Huxley with Doors of Perception. He went to the South and he tried peyote, or maybe it was San Pedro, but he tried a mescaline variant cactus, and that's from like the 20s. But that
was in the 20s.
Yeah, pre that, there is nothing. There's no literature. There's literature about ancient stuff, but there's no literature about somebody Western white going and trying something and writing about it. I'm sure there is. But it's like not widely known, like Huxley, like Leary, all these kind of things.
Right.
And it is pretty crazy to think about it, because like, I mean, you know, marijuana existed forever, right? That was like a very pretty old thing. Cocaine, right, was like a medicine.
That's true.
I mean, opium was like used to like destroy civilizations.
Yeah.
You know, but like, yeah, there was not a lot of understanding of like, you know, mescaline and psilocybin and LSD. I mean, wasn't invented yet, so it was like, it's very interesting. And DMT wasn't even talked about until the 70s or 80s. I think ayahuasca was known about, but they did not synthesize or get down to the molecule until the past 40, 50 years, which is also crazy to think about how, you know, like these things have been used for thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands of years by natives, and they know so much about it. Like it's like a technology for them. You know, they used it to build civilizations. They used it to communicate with, you know, the other dimensions. And we're like now studying it with science and being like, oh yeah, look, this molecule is a portal and we're going to map it and we're going to study it. And it's like, it's so new. It's such a new thing.
Crazy. Wow. Well, I'm glad it exists.
Me too.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that was lost. I wonder in what ways we like suffered without it.
Well, it probably, you know, and this is also, I'm very uneducated in this field, but I would probably imagine that it's to do with religion and the advent of dogmatic ideals.
I could see that.
Wanting to control people. It's kind of the same reason why, you know, when the resurgence happened, 20, 30, 40s, 50s, right away, the establishment's like, no, we don't want this. You know, what was the reason of the establishment making a war on drugs? Was the fear of mind opening, of against, you know, being anti, you know, establishment, being asking questions. These are all things that the monarchies and religious zealotism does not like very much.
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah, like what if it makes everyone gay? You know,
Yeah,
like, we can't
exactly.
have
What
that.
if exactly? Yeah, we can
We
only
can't
be
have-
gay if it's a high society thing in
Yeah.
a bathhouse. You can't be gay and just because you
Yeah, we
want to
can't
be.
just have everyone being gay. Yeah, so we
Yeah, it's
gotta-
only for the elites.
Yeah, I think that there's got to be truth to that. I think there's got to be truth to that. Yeah, because I mean, you saw like what like happened in the 60s and 70s. You know,
Yeah, fighting power, right? Civil rights movement, anti-war movements.
Yeah,
It's for sure correlated. I mean, you can't deny that the extreme surge of LSD. I mean, LSD is crazy because you don't need a lot of it to get high. It's like it's micrograms, literally like micrograms. So it's like,
yeah,
what do you need? You need to make 10 grams of a substance to get 100,000 people high. Like the idea of that is like very powerful, right? And the government knew that. MK Ultra, right? That was literally what it was. So it's like, it's crazy to me that had such a flip on society. Like, okay, here's an opportunity of like anti-war, civil rights movements. Here's an opportunity of like the ancient native cultures coming into the new age democracy and all the positive things about society and culture. And instead of embracing it and like using it as a trajectory to like benefit and go bigger and badder, we choose like the military industrial complex and fucking monopolization of capitalism. You know, it's like so crazy that was like because I don't think that people want that, right? If you go to like the 40s and 30s and 50s and ask people, hey, would you rather be a free thinking mind and have access to multi dimensions, or would you rather be a slave to a machine and die in a war and fucking work in a factory? Like, obviously.
yeah.
But then you ask our parents and they're like, no, drugs are bad.
Yeah, it can't be a coincidence. Just like most people that have these experiences, come back with a similar story to tell. Like they have some sort of feeling that we're all connected, and that just can't be a coincidence. There's got to be something to that. And it would make sense. Like now it's been around for a while, so like the radical change doesn't happen overnight. But then like the 60s or 70s, they just all got acid all of a sudden. And they all just like women just start taking off their shirts and men are painting their faces and they're all playing music, like the weird instruments too. Like, I'm going to play the didgeridoo. And like, they're like,
I'm going to fuck with a synthesizer and make some, far out music for sure.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
too.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Cause now it's like the common, cause like, I think back then, like the same way that now everybody's doing like fentanyl and opium and opiates and ketamine and like all these very easily accessible drugs, like back then that was LSD. And it's like, okay, probably a lot of people lost their minds, probably a lot of people flipped out and had a bad experience, but like think about the dangers of ketamine and fucking fentanyl. Like, you're not going to flip out, you're going to die. It's not even, and the chances of that happening are way higher than having a bad trip, right? It's like, it's very strange how that like amalgamated in such a interesting way. It's like, are drugs bad or are they good? And if they're bad, then why is everybody doing them in the streets?
Yeah. Well, it feels sad because now it's so dangerous too, even if you did want to experiment, with ketamine or cocaine or something. There's a big risk that you could end up dead from fentanyl poisoning.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's just sad.
It's so sad. And by the way, this is a unique thing to America. This is not, I mean, it is in some other countries as well, in third world countries for sure. But if you go to Europe and you buy coke or you buy ketamine, the chances of there being fentanyl in it are extremely slim. Yes, I'm sure there is cases and et cetera, but it's not like here where the chances, like, I don't really do drugs anymore, so I'm not really like a great person for this, but I've done drugs my whole life. And when I moved to America, I immediately bought strip tests because it's like, you know, there's a more than a 50-50 chance that I might hurt myself from trying to enjoy myself.
So in Israel, what are the drug laws like there?
It's pretty strict. The marijuana was illegal, completely illegal. Like, not a slap on the wrist. Like you'd go to jail up until I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, maybe longer, maybe 8 years ago, and then they decriminalized it about 8 or 6 years ago, but. They still consider it a schedule, whatever. They still consider it a dangerous substance. Medical marijuana has existed since the 80s. Israel was the first place to synthesize THC, actually. So that was a pretty big advent. But yeah, they made it decriminalized. But get this, it's decriminalized. You get a fine if you smoke. And if you get 3 fines, you can be incarcerated. So like,
damn.
It's not legal.
It's not
really,
very
you know
lax,
what I mean?
actually.
It's not very lax,
Yeah.
and also it incentivizes police more because now they get the fine money. Whereas before it was like, okay, the shitty cop that wants to fuck over the drug addict, like the hippie drug addict kid, was like way far in between. There was like not all cops were like that. Some of them were nice, but now it's not about being nice or not nice. It's like they're incentivized with money to find people smoking because they can get that ticket stuff.
See, I assume that maybe the reason why the United States had the issue with fentanyl and stuff was just because of the drug laws. But why do you think that the United States in particular has these dirty drugs issue?
The pharmaceutical companies, I mean, we know they went to jail or they're being indicted, whatever, the Pardue family, for pushing harmful and dangerous painkillers onto patients for doubling dosages, for completely manipulating the marketing and branding of their drugs. I think that's like the main part of it. I think that we have evidence that the CIA put crack cocaine into impoverished communities, right? That's like a fact. It's not a conspiracy.
Yeah.
They did that on purpose to create a disparity in race, basically. And I think that the continuation of that was fentanyl because, or just opiates in general, because now you're not only targeting impoverished black communities or colored communities, you're now targeting impoverished communities in general. And the more you create distance between the very, very rich and the very, very poor, then the easier it is for the very, very rich to stay very, very rich. That's just like, I think that's like a part of the way that we live in a capitalist society. And I'm a capitalist myself, so I'm not against capitalism. I just feel like, it should be ethical and fair for all. And then, I don't know if you know about fentanyl, but what happened was the pharmaceutical companies, basically, they were, there's a precursor to fentanyl. I don't know what it's called, but it's a precursor. And that precursor was made in the United States until about 10 or so years ago. And then 10 or so years ago, they realized that they can make this precursor for a fraction of the price in, guess where? China. China is really good at taking patents and ideas and changing them very slightly and making it their own, right? That's what they do really well. So they took this precursor to fentanyl that was being produced by all these pharmaceutical companies in China and then shipped to America and made into fentanyl, and they made their own precursor. So, whatever, they changed some molecule, whatever the fuck, who knows what they do. And now they're now shipping the precursor directly to people like the Mexican cartel, people like, the Indian drug routes, trades, and just in China in general, they make drugs there all the time. So then now you have a altered precursor. Who knows if it's better or worse? Probably worse because it's cheaper. that is now being created into fentanyl for way less money without any oversight or, restrictions. And it's a direct response to a capitalist company wanting to reduce their bottom line, which is sick to me, which is really sick, because fentanyl could have been a good thing, right? If you have serious pain and you're in need for a fast working painkiller, it's great. Works in low dosages, it's fairly cheap. Okay, it could be good. But the second it becomes a black market, the second you get people extremely addicted to it and it's flushed into the market in such a way that the cartels do now with fentanyl, it's like a very dangerous thing. And it's a direct reason is because the pharmaceutical companies were greedy and wanted to make their bottom line cheaper by going to China.
That makes sense. I could see that. I also kind of wondered too, like, maybe the government is like the conspiracy theorists. I mean, because it could be true because they've done it in the past, but
for sure.
But that sounds like a more likely scenario. Just capitalism doing its thing.
Yeah, I mean the government and the economy are tied together. A pharmaceutical company lowering their bottom line is directly tied to policy and lobbyism, and corporations are humans, right? Corporations are people too. So they have rights and they have more rights than us. Do you watch? Do you know some more news? Cody, I can't remember his last name, but it's a great channel. It's like they do 40-minute to an hour and a half videos on like different topics. And it's extremely unbiased, very like factual based, but it's hysterical. Like he does all these jokes, like very, very satirical, funny stuff. Highly recommended. So that and Channel 5, Andrew Callahan, great resources.
That sounds familiar.
He's cool. He was more like a kind of a Borat-esque kind of character for many years, but like the past 2 or 3 years, he's been doing like serious documentaries. So he talks a lot. He goes into like homeless encampments. He goes into like and he's not sensationalizing it. He's doing it in a very like documentary kind of way.
I know who you're talking about. He showed up at like Burning Man and other events like that too, hasn't he?
Yeah, like he would go to like, he would get people super drunk and be like, so what are you doing here? Like spring break kind of stuff.
It's not the all gas, no brakes guy.
It is. It's exactly that guy.
Him. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Andrew Callahan, all gas, no brakes. But he matured and now he does like serious documentaries, still in the same vein of like unmasking something, but yeah, I love his stuff. I learn a lot from it because he goes deep and he gets real information. Okay, so before we finish off here, I would love to ask you about your, not specifically your kids, but 2 specific things. Working from home with kids in the house. How does that touch you? It's very difficult. My kid's not walking yet, but even with his crawling, if he's crawling in the room next to me, he'll try to open the door and I want to like spend time with him because he's so cute, but like I also need to be focused. How does that touch you? And your kid is older. Like how have you approached teaching him about creativity, teaching him about art, and kind of like what daddy does kind of thing?
Let's see, he's almost 4. I guess he's like 3.5. I don't know how much he understands. He understands that I am making these things. He plays with resolume. He knows that he's controlling the visuals, obviously, through the different buttons and knobs and stuff like that. And he knows that I like do music shows, which he doesn't like. That I have to leave town for that.
Oh,
but working from home is really hard, and I struggle with it because I like, want to be nice and like, I want him around too. I just wish that he wouldn't like start jerking on cables and things like that.
Pushing buttons.
Yeah. So if I have like a deadline that's kind of far out, like he will come in and out of the office and, I'll play with him for a little bit, then he'll leave. And but then if I have like a deadline that's kind of stressing me out, you know, I'll have a talk with Maya and I'll lock the door. And I can't open it because then it just gets worse if I do. Then he gets in, he tries to like hide under the desk, and I have to be like, Miles, you have to get out, you know, and that sucks. But now he's getting a little bit older. He loves this game called BeamNG. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's like a like a car crash simulator, but they have like a semi-realistic.
I've seen tons of videos. I didn't know what it was called. What is it called? BMG?
BeamNG.
BeamNG.
So like
what a stupid name.
BeamNG. Yeah, what is it? I don't even know what it stands for. I have no idea what that means.
So he's playing with it? That's so cool.
Yeah, on this computer here while I'm like working over here. And then, you know, he'll like, he likes pretending like he's calling me on the phone. Like, he'll be like, Daddy, we're going camping. And like, he's happy as long as I'm like, I can work and pretend like I'm on the phone with him. You know, so that works sometimes. Or, you know, sometimes he'll like need me to change the car for him or whatever. But he's getting good at using a computer, which is weird too, because now I see it like, oh, you know, someday he's not going to have to ask me for any help, and then I'll probably be sad about that. Him. So I tried, yeah, we're asking him. So I try to like keep that in mind, like, you know, he's only like this dependent on me for so long. So, but you know, you got to make money. So,
did you guys introduce screens from a young age, or did you hold off on that?
His grandmother actually just like. We try to have rules about. We still do pretty well about that, but it was always like the grandparents. I felt like were letting them like play with their phone or whatever.
Grandparents, bro.
Yeah,
fucking grandparents.
Yeah.
If my mom gives my kid sugar, I told my mom, I'm like, the second I see you do that, I'm giving you like banning you for my kid. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna hide it from you. I'm like, no,
that's
I'm gonna find out,
dude. In our own house too. I've found sweets like in our own cabinet that are like Japanese snacks, you know, sweets that like Maya's mom bought.
It's like, come on.
And I'm just like, yeah, like have a little respect for what we're trying. But they're just like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like,
it doesn't matter.
You turned
that's
out
how they
fine.
raised up. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I turned out fine, but I might have like 50 different versions of cancer because you gave me the shittiest food ever. Thanks a lot, Mom.
Yeah, I have like 80 different fillings in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
They're made of mercury. It's lowered my IQ by 100 points.
Yeah, and I don't want to, you know, judge them. They didn't really know anything, but now we know better. You know, we know better. So it's like just fucking. So okay, so your mother-in-law or mother gave him a screen, like a phone to play with, and he just got super attached to it.
Yeah, and then we had to like break it back the other way, which we've done well recently. And then now I've been letting him play like video games while I'm working, just because like I have to get work done, and you know Maya's like taking care of, you know, breastfeeding the baby, has to sleep when she can, so it works, and it. Yeah, I don't. It doesn't feel bad when he's in here to me. But
no, do you see? Because I'm very scared about this because you know I had a computer in my room since I was 11. I built my own computer, and I've had a screen in my brain from a very young age. And
same.
You know, I'm normal, kind of. You know, but it definitely affected me. Like it definitely. I think that. It's different because we kind of grew up without it and then got it at a later age. So there's a little bit of a dissonance. Whereas I see kids today, they don't, you know, like I had my friend, you know, from the age of 6 months, put him in front of the screen with Rachel and all that bullshit. And I'm like, no judgment, just me personally. I want to keep him away from it as much as possible because he's going to have it anyways. But then, like what you're saying, and this is like what everybody says, and it's what I see myself, it's like, you know, it's an easy distraction. And like now, if I need to distract him, I got to fucking find all the toys. I got to read him a book. I got to, you know, give him something to eat. And he's young. And like as he's going to get older, those toys are going to be boring. And he's going to want to do more stuff. And he's going to want to touch everything and play with things and bother us. So it's like, I'm kind of dreading the day when it's like I give him the screen and I'm like, oh, thank God he's not bothering me.
Yeah.
But do you see like a difference in his attitude from when he's on the screen a lot or like playing games a lot? Like, is there a shift?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I've never noticed like anything like that. And yeah, sometimes he is in here 4 hours with me, just like playing Beam and G the whole time. You know, we'll take breaks and stuff, but like if I gotta get work done, you know, there's no other thing to do besides
no
hire like a
alternative.
babysitter. Yeah.
Yeah, baby, but even
Just
a babysitter, I mean, you know, eventually the kid is gonna get bored of what's going on.
Yeah. I also grew up, you know, with screens and things. So, you know, I felt like I remember like people asking us that before Miles was even born. And I kept thinking like, well, the way that I live, like, I don't think there's any possible way to like hide him from screens. You know, I'd have to have like a secret job, you know, lie about what I'm doing. Like, oh, I'm a construction worker. And I go out like dressed in an orange vest and go back in through the back, work on my computer.
Yeah. That's really funny. Yeah, I just notice it like because we haven't introduced screens like on a hard level. Like if I'm watching TV and he has some games, he won't watch the TV. He'll play with the games. And I'm like, oh, I want that to last forever, but it's like not realistic, you know? Because like you said, like he sees us watching TV, he sees me working, he sees me on my phone. Like the moment that he gets to a point of like, what's that, Daddy? I'm gonna have to express it to him, and he's gonna want to. I want it.
That doesn't take long either.
It doesn't take long. He's a year and 2 months now. Yeah. Okay. So he's 14 months. He, you know, doesn't stop talking, but it's all gibberish. You know, but it's close. It's close. He's saying mama, dada without, I don't think he knows what he's saying yet. He's still saying mama, 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 mama. But he knows like booby is like this. And he started clapping now to like express that he's excited.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip. It's a real trip.
Yeah, you learn so much just like about humanity. I feel like watching like your own kid grow. It's really a trip.
Well, I remember when he was a little baby, it's like literally every person that you interact with that's alive that you're interacting with was a helpless, hopeless baby and only is alive today because somebody cared for him in those moments, which is it's insane to think about, you know?
And you don't remember it either. That's the other like crazy part.
You don't remember it.
Yeah. Like I don't remember like my dad like being affectionate with me, but now that I have kids, like I know that happened because there's no way around it.
It had to. Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a trip. Like you don't remember any of that period of your life, but every single person, if they're alive, had a person, doesn't have to be a parent, just a person taking care of them. Otherwise they would be dead. And it's like, it's just trippy. It's like really ingrained in, you know, in the human experience, I feel.
Totally.
I feel very appreciative that I can go through it. You know, we were joking, me and my wife, a few days ago, like, okay, if we could just like turn a key and like not have any repercussions and not have a baby, would we do it? And we're both like, yeah, of course. Like, I want to go see a movie in the movie theater. I want to like go hang out at a party. But then you kind of like think about it a little bit more, and it's like, okay, well, I learned so much and I'm maturing, and as he's going to get older, then the experience becomes a little bit more like real, you know, like you know, toddler and chill and like teenagehood and all these things are like a lot more like, okay, well, I'm having a more impact besides for myself.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, fuck.
Absolutely.
If I could go to a party tomorrow without having to like do a bazillion things, maybe I would much rather not have a baby. You know?
Yeah,
like,
I think about that too. But then like as soon as I'm away for like work or something, it's like after like one day, sometimes it's only like a few hours, and I'm like, oh shit, like I wonder what Miles is doing, or like I wonder what he's up to right now. So I like miss him so much when I'm away.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh man, I could do this thing. I feel like I've been having that thought less lately.
I think
For
that
some
as
reason.
time goes on, you're a shell of what you used to be, my friend. I'm joking. You'll never get that freedom back. So you might. No, I think that as time goes on, you do kind of disassociate. Like, okay, what is me being free now? Like, what is me having with independency? And it's like a totally different thing when you get married and have kids.
Right.
And like I'm still in like the kind of middle of like remembering or being used to something, you know? And also I think that as they get older, I really do believe that as they start developing personality, it's a narcissistic thing, by the way. I think it's like an inherent in us of like seeing yourself in your child and like, okay, I'm going to make the world better by making a good kid, you know, that like, that becomes a little bit more of a goal. Whereas like a baby, it's a little bit more esoteric of like, you're just keeping this thing alive. And it's cute. Don't get me wrong. Super cute. You learn things about humanity and things, but it's like, you know, I want to go do drugs on the weekend. You know, like it's just like a thing. And then I think it comes full circle, right? As they get older and you get your freedom back.
I know that's a long ways away. So
it's a long ways away.
I heard it goes by quick, but for now it seems like a really long time away. Yeah, I don't even have like the desire to party so much anymore. I
just want to go see a movie.
Go see a movie.
Just want to go see a movie.
Because you can't go to the theater with a baby. No way.
No, definitely not.
You know what we did with Miles? We went to the drive-in. There's a drive-in here in Sacramento that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
We saw the Mario Brothers movie there when it came out, and he freaking loved that.
He loved it.
He had such a good time. He'd be like, "Daddy, you remember the big TV?" We're like,
so
yeah. We're listening to like the car radio. We can be loud. You know, we can have our snacks. It's a good time.
That's awesome. That's a good one. So my friend, this has been awesome. We've been going 3 hours, which is great. Anything you want to share with the audience before we go? Anything you want to plug?
Check out that music video, super Supercilious, called "Beginning of the World Party."
I will link it in the description.
Yeah, that's it. You know, maybe I'll see you somewhere. I don't know what to say.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you. You're a super nice guy. I'm really excited to meet you in person. I hope it will happen at some point. And thank you for doing this. Really,
dude, thank you so
appreciated.
Much. I had a great time.
Wow, what a wacky time. Mathew is such a pleasure and sweetheart to talk to. I really, really enjoyed our conversation, and his set was extremely inspiring. I myself started getting into AI after this episode. Huge thanks to Matt to Smash for the intro and outro music. Next week's guest is a powerhouse. I'm not even going to give a hint because of how special and powerful it is. You're just going to have to follow us on social medias to find out who he is. See you next week.